Will, you know what? I think you have been very nice. So I really appreciate you answering all the questions. I don't think I have any more questions.
Slay. Well, I appreciate you coming up.
Thank you.
Wonderful, everyone. What time is it? What time is it? Wow, I have so many messages that I need to respond to. Okay. Anyway, I guess we're just gonna do a trans debate then. Well, I appreciate all of you so much. What I will say is that you should. No, you can't see my room. That's not allowed. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Ben. No, I'm not leaving. No. Did I say that I'm leaving? No. Stay on, Queen. I'm gonna stay on for a while, but just keep sending some likes. Keep sending some likes. Follow me up here. Follow my YouTube, and yeah, I can change the background to God, Ben. Wonderful. If you think I'm a good speaker, do please follow my YouTube. I would really appreciate it.
Hey there.
Hello, Ben.
How you doing? Hey, I wanted to argue on God.
Yeah, I got you. I got, let's see, womp. Yeah, there we go.
All right. So, yeah, my name is Ben. You Will? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not coming here to like tell you you're wrong. I want to give you 10 points, and then we can talk about them, and you can take them in critically and see where the conversation goes.
Can we do point by point, or do you want to monologue for a while? Like, what's the plan here?
We can do point by point. So
Great, let's do point by point. That works better.
Let's talk about the cosmological argument for God. So the cosmological argument asserts that everything in the universe has a cause, and there must be a first cause or prime mover, which is God. And this argument is rooted in the principle of causality, which is a fundamental concept in philosophy and science. It suggests that every effect has a cause, and this chain of causes cannot regress infinitely backward. Therefore, there must be an uncaused necessary being at the beginning of this chain. And originally it came from Thomas Aquinas. Summa Theologica is a foundational work presenting this argument.
So you're talking about the cosmological or the Kalam cosmological?
The base cosmological argument presented by Thomas Aquinas.
Thomas Aquinas. Sorry to be a dick. Aquinas.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Thomas Aquinas.
I got that wrong.
Let's talk about the cosmological. So there are a few premises of the cosmological that I find problematic. Primarily, it comes down to an inductive reasoning argumentation, right? Which is, there are a few points here. First of all, an infinite regression is possible. Like, that's just wrong. An infinite regression of causality is possible. I mean, there's kind of an assertion within this argument that an infinite regression is impossible. I just disagree. We cross actual infinities all the time. We cross non-actual infinities all the time. Actual infinities are difficult to understand, but in reality, when engaging with them, we do cross them. So it's more of a mind puzzle than it's a real puzzle. Secondarily, it's an inductive problem. So even if you said, okay, actual infinities don't exist, right? There's no reason to believe that something cannot come from nothing outside or at the beginning of this universe, right? So it is true that we have yet to observe anything come from nothing within this universe, right? But there's no reason to extend that inductive knowledge outside of the rules that we are trying to induct. So therefore, I would take issue with it being a being. There's no reason to believe that it's an embodied God. It could just be an uncaused cause that just happened, right?
I mean,
because there's no reason to believe otherwise.
The argument doesn't claim that something comes from nothing, but rather, it asserts that contingent things require a necessary being as their ultimate cause, and it's identified.
So I get how I'd phrase that then is not a necessary being, right? But just an uncaused cause. So it's contingent. So it's cause effect, cause effect, cause effect, right? The contingency is the first cause, right? I'm just saying, as far as we could tell, there's no reason not to believe that an uncaused cause couldn't happen.
Yeah. And then, I mean, what would you say? I mean, while we haven't observed something coming from nothing, maybe in our everyday experiences, the argument more focuses on the causality within the universe and the entities within it. Like within this framework, every event or entity can be traced back to a previous cause, but the question remains about, what initiated the chain.
Well, what's interesting about that is it's also not accurate even within our universe. We've never seen matter be caused into existence, right? We've seen changes of state happen, right? But I think they're drastically different questions, right? About the natural laws that govern the creation and destruction of matter or energy, right? Which we really have no inductive knowledge about, right? And those that engage with the change of matter or energy, which we have lots of inductive knowledge about. So what I think this argument does is it not only misapplies the actual inductive knowledge that we have, that which changing knowledge by comparison to creation or changing matter by comparison to creation or destruction. So it misapplies that inductive knowledge, but equivalently, it misapplies the inductive knowledge without and within the government, or within the universe. So it says, okay, within our universe, we've seen all things be caused. Therefore, outside of the universe, prior to the universe, something must have, right? And even within the conclusion, that doesn't make sense, because the assertion is that God is outside of the universe and affects it. So if we're assuming that something is outside of the universe, there's no reason to induct any knowledge about that, right? Because necessarily it wouldn't follow the rules of our universe.
Yep. All right. I appreciate that. So I think we go to the next point then. Let's go on the teleological argument. It posits that the complexity and order in the universe, such as the intricacy of biological organisms or the fine-tuning of physical constants, suggests an intelligent designer. I mean, it points to the remarkable complexity and, purposefulness. Jesus Christ, I can't speak, my fault. In the natural world, like DNA, which store and transmit genetic information, all that, and the fine-tuning of physical constants, such as the cosmological constant and the gravitational constant. So it's designed to support life.
Yeah, so I'd ask you, Ben, how complex on a rating from 1 to 10 is the universe?
As it needs to be.
Rate it from 1 to 10. How complex is it?
Depends how you look at it, I guess. Depends
how I look at it.
What is complex
to you? How do we do ratings? Right, like this.
Kind of subjectively.
Isn't it necessarily comparative? In order to know how complex something is, we have to have something to compare it to, right?
Yeah. I guess people can compare it to.
The thing is about our universe, we don't know. We have nothing to compare it to. We don't have universe number 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? 2 of which were created by God, 2 of which weren't. Right. So my difficulty with this is it's looking at a quality, right? And it's saying, wow, look at this quality. God must have done it because of how complex it is. But the thing is this could be this argument, if it was true, would apply to all complexities. It either applies to all complexities or no complexities. Therefore, we assume that it applies to no complexities.
I guess we could compare it to, I guess it was originally compared to man-made things. The man mind is such limited to the scope of if God was possible, it wouldn't be limited.
Well, the thing is, man-made things are also God's creations. Necessarily. If
we talk about it, do you believe in, would you believe free will exists under Christian God's scope?
No. Of course not.
You wouldn't?
Only in the capacity. So let me clarify that. Within the Christian God scope, well, by merit of the Christian God being able to make anything true, right? Yeah, free will exists. But if God can't make logical inconsistencies true, right? If I just ignore the truth-making power of God, then yeah, of course God doesn't. Like an omniscient, all-knowing, all-powerful God can't create free will. It's like it doesn't make sense.
I got you. I think we can get to, that's actually another point. We can get to that, but on the teleological, you talked about complexity, but versus randomness. it's not arguing that it's specific to it. It argues, that the complexity cannot be adequately explained by random chance or natural processes alone.
I mean, God has zero explanatory value. So I don't think we go into explanatory value with the apologetics argumentation, because God has literally zero explanatory value. Because he can explain everything, therefore he can explain nothing.
All right. I'm good with that. Then we go to the next argument. Let's talk about the moral argument. It claims that the existence of moral values and duties requires a moral lawgiver, which is identified as God. And the argument rests on the idea that, objective moral values exist, meaning that some actions are truly right or wrong regardless of individual or societal opinions. For example, murder is morally wrong is often considered self-evident with basically everyone in the human species. And the existence of such moral values implies a source of morality beyond human or natural origins. And it's talked more about in C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity.
No, I know. Okay, so there's a divergence of the evidence and conclusion here. We can go into whether I personally believe that objective morality goes here, but I'm just going to attack the argument you're making. You prove that there's an objective morality by pointing to what most societies believe. The fact that most societies believe something is wrong doesn't mean that it's objectively true. The fact that most people think something does not mean that it's objectively true, right? So you don't actually have evidence for something being objectively true, right? You just say and it's actually contradictory for you to suggest, right, that most societies believing something makes it or means that it's objectively true, because you recognize that in a secular world, even if most people believe that, or most societies believe it, it doesn't make it objectively true, right? So you have no evidence that there is an objective morality, right? You just say it's kind of an intimidation point. You're saying in order for you to believe there's an objective morality, right, you need to believe in God, right? But it's not actually evidence. It's just a necessary conclusion from you or a necessary conclusion from me, right? It's more of a reducto than an argument. But can you prove to me there's an objective morality? If you could, then we could talk. But I don't think you can.
I mean, objective morality, it's kind of supported by, the practice of arguments and the debates that discuss between it, because people from different backgrounds engage in moral discourse like we're doing, and they attempt to persuade each other of the rightfulness or wrongness of certain actions. And this kind of suggests a belief in moral truths that exist independently of individual or societal opinion.
Why? Wait. A few things. If you and I agreed there was an objective morality, that wouldn't make there be an objective morality, right? The fact that you and I are debating about objective morality doesn't make there an objective morality.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying because
but it actually has no relational value, right? It's no evidence. That's not evidence at all. Like the fact that we talk in a certain way doesn't suggest that there's an objective morality.
No,
you would need to point to something objective.
It's the idea because people started the arguments of morality, that it must have come from somewhere, and that it exists independently. So that's why I'm arguing. And I'm not telling you you're wrong or that I'm right. I'm kind of just playing devil's advocate and seeing how you think about it, because I like challenging people's views and such. It helps me learn as well.
Yeah, that's fine. I just don't think I don't think there's I don't think you've presented evidence of objective morality. The fact that we discuss morality is not evidence that it's objectively true, right? If I came and debated the best color in the world, right, it wouldn't mean that there's objectively a best color.
But where did
even if I took as the premise that there was.
Where did your belief system of morality come from?
Right, so I believe in objective
down
morality.
The list.
Once again, I believe in objective morality, and we can go into that, right? I don't disagree, but I base it off of a secular argumentation. I'm saying within a God-based world, the problem with this argument is it's self-defeating, right? Actually, it's both self-defeating and kind of circular, because you're arguing that you can't have objective morality without God while trying to prove that a God exists. So then as a premise, you can't take that a God exists, and by your own argumentation, that means that there can't be an objective morality.
I mean, if you take it epistemologic look on it, you can recognize that moral truths are similar to the ability to recognize mathematical truths. Just as mathematical truths are objectively real and can be apprehended by human reason, moral truths may also be objectively real and discernible through moral reasoning.
Once again, that's great. It doesn't really defeat the argument I made there, which is that it's circular.
Yeah, it's understandable. Yeah, and I mean, religion is kind of circular in terms of if you look at specifically from a logical and fact-based look at it. I mean, if you're going to argue religion and be open-minded, you also have to take in the account of what could be, what can be, and what is. So you have to take in all reasons. That's my look. So I mean, we can go to the next topic. So I mean, so a lot of people claim to have direct personal experiences with God, which they consider as compelling evidence for his existence. I mean, there's countless testimonies throughout history, across cultures, describing profound religious experiences, and it includes a sense of God's presence or transformation or encounters with the divine.
Great, and they're so inconsistent that they're not reliable. So how we judge eyewitness testimony is not only prevalence, but also consistency and corroboration. Basically, none of the eyewitness testimonies that aren't, colluding, right? So a bunch of Christians coming together and having a group experience, or a bunch of being influenced by a Christian society. Then, wow, I experience a Christian God. How crazy. Ones that aren't colluding, right, don't look similar. So a person that hasn't grown up in a Christian society has a very different experience of the supernatural than a person that has, which leads you to suggest that it's societal rather than divine.
But I mean, if you look at the experiences and how it's shared, among basically all religions, I mean, it could be argued that the experiences reflect, transcendent reality that different belief systems apprehend in varying ways. The universality of, religious experiences could suggest a common spiritual dimension.
In religious experiences? Like, what's universal in it? In non-colluded religious experiences. So like for these purposes, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, and the Baha'i faith, they're all colluded. So what is universal outside of Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and the Baha'i faith?
There's proponents in Buddhism, Muslims, a lot of different Chinese religions, Native American religions even point to, personal experiences with the divine.
Wait, yeah, but I'm talking about, so of the personal experiences, what's universal? What is the experiential universality?
Yeah, is being in a sense of God's presence, transformation, or encounter.
I don't think transformation maybe, right? But I mean, psychs do that. Puberty does that. And in the presence of God, I think if we actually asked most people that were raised in polytheistic societies, they wouldn't say they were in the presence of God. They might say they're in the presence of a God or in the presence of gods, right? Very rarely do you see the corroboration of a monotheistic God.
Gotcha,
outside of monotheistic societies.
Yep.
Hence difficulty with corroboration. Anyway, there are other people trying to debate, so I'd love to move through the next ones relatively quickly, so we can just do a quick back and forth.
Let's talk about historical evidence. Christianity claims historical evidence for the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, as recorded in the New Testament, and including Gospels, provide detailed accounts of the life and teachings of Jesus, as well as his crucifixion and resurrection. Did I
see you?
Yep, it was bad.
Yeah, you did. Great. So I'll respond to that really quickly. The Gospels are inconsistent regarding his resurrection, right? Who came to the tomb? Who found out that he was gone? And there's basically no third-party independent accounts of his resurrection that are sufficient for that belief. We've never seen anyone else be resurrected, so it's an incredibly high level of belief to believe that anyone could be resurrected. and equivalent, and we just don't have that level of eyewitness testimony. The Gospels are the historicality of Jesus is not really questioned. Most scholars recognize that Jesus existed. So that doesn't really matter. The question is the divinity of Jesus, and the actual historicality of the divinity of Jesus is much more important than the existence of Jesus. And the divinity of Jesus has very, very, very little evidence towards it. Primarily just seen in the New Testament, which is obviously like the New Testament was a piece of propaganda.
I mean, many books and letters in the New Testament were written by individuals who were reportedly eyewitnesses to the life of Jesus. And I mean, these accounts considered firsthand testimonies. And there's even non-Christian sources like Tacitus and Josephus. They make references to Jesus in early Christian communities.
Reference in what way to Jesus? That he exists?
That he existed, and the reliability of the stories from the Bible itself.
Interesting.
I'd suggest you look into it.
By and large, the Bible isn't firsthand testimony. So the four main Gospels are not firsthand; they're passed down orally, and were written posthumously. So,
yeah. But
the Gospels aren't firsthand.
Yeah, but the stories from them, or which come from firsthand experiences.
Yeah, but that would make them secondhand.
So, are you arguing that
it's hearsay?
You said it was propaganda. Are you saying that all the disciples went and died for a fake religion?
I mean, I think it's a fake religion. Yeah, I think a bunch of people died for the fake religion. I have a lot more sympathy for the people that died, or were unalived by the fake religion than those that actively died for it. But secondarily, yeah, it is propaganda. We know it's propaganda. We know that the four Gospels were chosen and written, right, for very specific reasons, to capture different categories within the communities. So yeah, it is propaganda. I mean, we can get the precise breakdown of those four Gospels if we want. But yeah, it was made and organized in part by the Roman Empire to propagandize and unify people behind a certain goal.
I mean, even though it is that, despite being composed over all that years ago, it stayed remarkably consistent in its theological and moral teachings. And all the accounts.
I think the whole entire Protestant Reformation would disagree with you.
In what sense?
In the sense that they literally said that it had been corrupted and been actively misconstrued by the Catholic Church.
Yeah, but we do still have access to the there's the dead what is it?
Sea Scrolls, yeah.
Yeah, the Dead Sea Scrolls and original text. I mean, I know that the Catholic Church became very political and such like that, and it could have been misconstrued, but the Bible's translations into other areas of the world stayed mostly consistent.
Yeah, they stayed consistent because they were forced to by historical accounts like the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's not terribly surprising that an old document that literally is the most reprinted document in the world might stay consistent, right, when there aren't bad faith actors for it. So.
Well, you want to get on to the next person, so I won't hold you up. So you have a great day. Thanks for listening.
Hey, well, I appreciate you coming up. Yeah.
Yep.
Keep on sending likes, everyone. Thank you so much for everyone sending gifts. Do follow my YouTube because I'm trying to be a bit more active on YouTube. I'll actually be consistently posting on YouTube.
Hello.
Should be pretty good. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
So I guess before I start, what's your point of view on religion? So I'm assuming
I'm an agnostic atheist.
You don't believe in anything at all, correct?
I mean, I believe in certain things. I believe I exist, but theistically, no.
In religion-wise, you don't believe in anything?
No, in terms of theism, no.
Okay. So, see, I grew up in trying to think how to say this. I grew up in like a very bad situation, poverty, my first probably like 15 years of my life, I did not believe in God because I'm like, if God's real, how could bad things happen? So as I started growing up, I still lacked faith, but I feel like I hit a point in my life where I had to commit and give myself to God. And at that point, I'm just searching and I'm lost. So I guess where I'm going at is that, I mean, I've watched what occurred after I started praying to God, going to church, trying to look for better things. I watched what turned around my life and watched the miracles and transformations in my life. And then if you go back to, like you said, with the Jesus thing, as you start looking into it, every religion, or almost every religion, if it's Christianity, Islam, they all announce that Jesus was there. If they believe he was the son of
I
God,
mean,
or if they
yeah, no
believe
one
that
disagrees that Jesus existed.
absolutely.
If it's your personal experience, great, cool, don't care. The question is if I have a good reason. If you can tell me a good reason for me to believe, right?
Absolutely.
But the other thing is if your argument is, oh, well, you'll get um miracles done to you. All these good things will happen. I think that's a despicable God. I think it's a disgusting, selfish God to only hand out miracles, only hand out good things to people that pray, take a time out of their day, take time out of that very difficult day that he made difficult, right? To give him prayer, give him gratitude, give him attention, right? What an immature God. So if your argument, right, is well, God will do good things for you. I don't want to believe in that type of God. I don't want to believe. I don't
This
want that God to
we
exist.
we we
So,
live
so
in a
even in a selfish way, I wouldn't agree. But once again, even if I did believe that I would get good things, even if I did believe that type of God was good, right? Him doing good things to me doesn't prove that he exists.
well, let me give you this.
He
We
needs to
live in
exist
a
before he does good things.
we live in an evil world. We live in a dumb world. Somebody like you, especially people like you that use a platform to, it's one thing for you not to have faith, for you to use your platform to put on younger people's mind that faith isn't the right way instead of letting them figure their own way out. I
Look,
feel like that's
religion hurts more
disagree.
people than atheists ever will.
But let
So if
but
you
let me
want to
say
talk
this
about
though.
harm, if you want to talk about evil, right, work within your own communities. Don't come after ours.
People like
Because
you
by and
though.
large,
But
our
listen though.
atheism is not organizing evil in this world, right? The Catholic Church, the Protestant churches are.
People like
So
you that God Himself, Jesus could come in front of you and show you any miracle you want, and you're gonna call it fake. You're gonna say He sold it. You're gonna say He sold His soul. No matter what you see or what you feel,
I
you're
say they
gonna call
sold
it
their
fake.
soul. I don't believe in a God.
I'm saying, if no matter what you see, or if God Himself came to you, you still would never believe in it because you're gonna do what everybody else does. Oh, that's fake. Oh, that's fake. He did this. You know what I
Look,
mean? At the
but
end of the
God
day,
knows what he needs to do. Well, here's my thing about this is God knows what he needs to do to convince me. If he really wanted to convince me, he could. He hasn't
He
yet.
couldn't though. He couldn't
So
though.
either he's a very egotistical God that needs you, right? An infinitely less powerful person than him to come up here and attempt and get angry and get upset and get, prideful. I don't think that's what God would do. So the question is, why
So
hasn't he
God
come
would
down
do
and
that.
explained it to me if it's so drastically important?
I mean,
Is
I
it a
feel like
moral test on you? I don't think so. I don't think that really makes sense.
so
And also,
so
once again, if you want to talk about an evil world, talk about your own people.
everything you're saying though, my man, everything you're saying though, this world is evil regardless. So people that say, "Oh, if your God's real, this wouldn't be going on. This would." So you rather
I
live
don't
your
say that
whole.
though.
Let me ask you
I
though.
didn't say
You
that. You said that.
let
That's
me
not
ask
my
you
view.
though.
Also, would you take your children to church?
Would you rather? So you want to live this world and then believe that when you die, you're gonna go in the ground and rot. You wouldn't rather have some type of faith in your heart to believe that you could go and spend the rest of eternity with your family. You really have nothing to lose here. If you really think about it, you
I
have
disagree.
nothing to
I have
lose from
everything to
believing in
lose.
God.
I disagree, actually. Once again, this is totally arbitrary. I have everything to lose.
And half of the people that don't believe in
Um,
God, you don't want to have to stop sinning or stop having sex or stop doing drugs or stop stealing. That's the biggest part without believing in God. Because for you to say, "Oh, I commit to God and I believe in God,"
that's
and then live
fascinating
a
because
certain way.
Christians are more criminal than atheists on average. Interesting accusation there. As everyone says, every accusation is an admission. But once again, you're not coming on here advocating um,
I'm coming on here speaking
that
my point of
Christians
view
stop
and
bringing
my
their children to church. Do
There's
you
no.
talk to Christians and tell them not to bring their children to church? Do you talk to Muslims and tell them not bring their children
When
to
did when did I ever say
listening?
don't bring somebody to church? I never
But
said
you're mad
anything
at
about
me.
not going to
You're
church.
no, no, you're upset at me for using my platform to influence children to make their choice.
That's the
That's
thing though, is
fascinating.
that
Because that's fascinating because a mosque, sorry, the blanks.
it,
You advocate that against them. You
and that's
go
the
into the
sad
mosque.
part
No,
with this
of course not. So
generation.
it's not about protecting them. It's not about it protecting their sovereignty. It's not about protecting their choice, right? You want to guilt me.
That's
You want
no.
to
My
guilt
point
me, but you're
is
not going to
that the
guilt them.
sad part is that you rather people in this generation like you would rather have some clout. So even if you knew God was real and you would get more views on coming on here and talking about not believing in God, you would still do it. You know what I mean? And you're gonna have your
I mean,
consequences
Christians have
and
made
at the end of the
hundreds
road.
of millions of billions of dollars more than I have. Once again, if you're going to talk about me making money, which I make extraordinarily little money, this is the second time I've had to explain this.
I'm saying you use your
I make very,
platform
very little money off
to
doing this.
spread.
I make very, very little clout off doing this. You know who makes more clout? The Catholic Church. You know how we know that? Because they have billions of dollars. So if you want to talk about people making money off of religion, talk to the people making money off of religion.
And
And it ain't me. It ain't
and I
me.
can tell people like you, weak-minded, you can't even form your own opinion. You rather go watch somebody that's gonna put something in your mind, and then you're gonna block it out. God's not real. Let me go on
Aren't
here
you literally
and show these
advocating that
young
you bring
kids.
children to church to put things in their mind? Your whole entire thing is based off people coming and putting things in other people's mind. You're saying believe this book. That's not your original thought. In what world is that your original? Nothing about this is original to you. You don't even claim it to be original to you.
So
As
have
I've
you
said, every accusation is an admission, right?
have
No, of course, I'm the only one critically thinking here. I'm the only one who's not actively trying to cope, right, with the arbitrary mythology that they've been fed. What have you critically thought about? Jack
and
shit to be a religious
what I
person.
love
It's actually it's a absolute failure of
you
critical
know what I
thinking
love
to
bringing up
accept the first thing given to you.
is that people that don't believe in God, you say, oh, all that's lies, all that's not true. What you guys believe in is not true. And you know what you believe in? You believe in what the government came down here and told you, and what this world and what these fake ass scientists brought into your mind. Oh, that's got to be real. We came from apes. So for you to say that our point of views are crazy, you're believing something that you never experienced yourself. You didn't study this. You're believing another man's word. So, I'd rather have some faith and hope there's an afterlife. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so you'd rather believe what makes you feel better, but this is a facts over feelings space.
And
So if
people in
you
the
want to,
comments saying I believe in
if you want to
science.
make your fifis better, if you want to cope, right, because you're upset and life is difficult, I respect it actually. I have no issue with you believing something false because it makes you feel better. If that's your argument, my fifis hurt, so I'm going to believe something that's false that make me feel better. That's great. I don't disagree with that. I actually think it's fine. The difficulty is when you push something that's harmful, which I believe Christianity is harmful, to make your fifis better. Right? And
And the
you don't
people that's
have
in
to
the
believe
comments
the
saying
despicable
science is not
mythology. You
real.
don't have to
People
one
that's in
second.
the
You don't have to
comments
believe.
saying science is
Okay.
not real is the people that be on here. Oh, the government's lying. This ain't true. This ain't true. Come on. In reality, if you don't do it yourself, you don't know what's true and what's being told to you that's false. So y'all can sit there
Great, great. But the
and
thing
deny.
is you don't have to sign on to the despicable ideology that is the origin of Christianity and the perpetuation of Christianity has entailed, right? In order to make your fifis better, make up your own religion that makes you feel better about heaven without signing on to a book that condones slavery. Look, make up your own religion that makes your feelings feel better without signing on to a book that says that,
And there's a
we
lot
should
of,
stone divorce
and
people.
I'm not a naive person. There's a lot of things in religion with churches and the money that I don't condone of and I don't believe in truly. But when it comes down to it, that I know that I've seen what a higher power does in my life and transform situations. At the end of the day, I gotta believe it's a higher power, and I hope anybody that before they deny a higher power, they try to look into faith and fill it out
I've
on their
tried to
own
look into
instead of
faith.
listening
I've
to
studied
somebody
faith
like
my whole
you.
life. Why do you assume ignorance of the people that are literally critically thinking about this? I spend hours and hours of my day, most days. I spend years of my life, right, studying and engaging with and articulating religious thought, right? This
I
is what I
doubt it.
do.
I doubt it.
I've probably spent more mental energy talking about it than you have, right? Because once again, this is what I engage in on a daily basis. I wouldn't I don't know why you talk to the people that have probably studied this the most when and suggest that we're somehow the ignorant ones. right? I don't know where that comes from.
You go into this thinking, oh yeah, well, God's not real. Let me read this and see if this is gonna change my mind. That's not having faith. For anything to change, for anything to be shown to you, you got to go into it with a positive mind. And obviously, if you coming on
Totally disagree.
TikTok
That's not
and
how you come
telling
to
people
it. That's
God's
not how
not
you come to
real,
truth.
you're not
You
having
come
a
to truth
positive mind.
adversarially.
No, because you're telling me that you're studying. The same reason why you believe that you formed from apes. You studied that too. I
I don't
mean,
think I formed
eventually
from
you got to
apes.
see
First of
what
all,
your
we
heart's
are
telling you.
apes. We're great apes. You don't even understand the thing you're making fun of.
I mean, you gotta think though. You say what we believe in sounds stupid. That sounds fucking crazy. You came from an
I
ape.
never said
I
that way.
mean,
No. I never said that I never said that what you believe in is stupid. I said that what you believe in is wrong.
that's what I'm saying. But you say it sounds crazy that
But
it's
you
all
want to
made
make
up.
yourself feel like a victim. I'm not saying you're crazy. I'm saying you're wrong.
Listen,
Stop
bro.
making
I don't.
yourself a victim.
I don't gotta act like a victim. I'm just pulling you out and you're saying bullshit. Because
Then
at the end of the
don't.
day, you say that what we believe in is not true and that it's wrong and that we've been misled. But you've been told by the world that, oh, you formed from an ape. Let me believe that. You know what I mean? Instead of going in, if you want to believe that, like you said, you study our religion and try to see where we come from. Why don't you come from what you believe in and go do some studies on that? You can't do it. So you're gonna believe in something that
I
was
study
told to you
what
for
you
the rest of
believe
your
in. Of
life.
course I do. What do you mean?
So you study that you got formed from apes.
My boyfriend's a biologist. Like he studies evolutionary biology. Of course, I engage in the academics. I personally, right, am not a
And
biologist, but
y'all
I
not gonna like
engage with the
this.
academics. I
Hey,
talk to
y'all not
them.
gonna like this, but I don't give a fuck. And you know that's really crazy that you're gay and you don't believe in God. You know, it's like I mean, come on, my man. That's kind of like picture perfect
I
right
didn't
there.
believe in God well before I was actively gay, but trust
I
me,
mean,
look,
I mean
look,
that, and I understand it now.
if anything,
That could have misled you your whole time. Like, oh, God doesn't accept gay people. Oh, well, God's fake anyways, and now you're gay. Come on, my man. That's picture perfect.
look, if anything, going into a church and seeing the absolutely gorgeous, Jesus on a cross would have motivated me to go to church more. But it's interesting because I don't choose my beliefs based off what admittedly are some very well sculpted abs of the vast majority of crucified Jesuses. So no, I'm not an atheist because I'm gay. If anything, I'd be a theist because I'm gay. Um, but I don't base my beliefs off my fifis. Um,
And
just
at the end
because
of
you
the day,
do, right?
listen,
This
bro.
is an
I don't
assumption once again. You're assuming that everyone
listen,
bases
bro.
their views off of their fifis and they're angry. That's not what it's about. What it's
I
about
don't
is just doesn't seem
listen,
to
bro.
be
I don't
true.
wish nothing bad on you. I don't mislead your opinions. I hope them that I hope that everything goes great in your life, and I hope that eventually you study other rooms and you figure out something better. Cause and like I said, that's your opinion. If you want to live your whole life and not believe that there's an afterlife that you get to spend with your families and people that you love, and you rather just believe you die after 60, 70, 80 years, I mean, that's just a miserable life. And then if you
Look,
say with church,
I'd rather not waste the time I have pretending I have more, right? Than make my fifis a little better by deluding myself and waste the time I have on Earth.
and then if you say something about
I
church,
think a limit of our time gives us value, right? And I think people who feel discouraged or hurt by that run to religion. I actually
and
have
you
the
know,
opposite view of you.
and I heard,
I think very often people feel scared by that very naturally, terrified, limited, horrified of their time on Earth. Um, but I view it as motivation.
and
So if you
you
don't, that's
say
fine.
you said
But
something about
what
church,
makes my fifis feel better is working hard, believing in myself. What
you
makes
know,
your fifis better is
you know
believing
what
you just have to
happened.
believe that that's
You know
fine.
what happens when you go to church? You go into church, you're around loving people, supportive people, people that's lost, people that's struggling, but they unite and
You don't think I've gone to church my whole life?
their situations.
You
But
don't
it's
think
my
I've gone
point
to
though.
church my whole life?
This my
I've
point
gone to
though.
church my whole life,
There's
babe.
nothing, that's why I said in my beginning of my argument is that there's nothing to lose. It's not like when you come Christian, you got to give money. It's not like you can never sin. You can never make a mistake. It's just you are united with people and you have a hope for the future. You know what I mean? Instead of
You know
sitting,
that. Wait, no. I love how you assume this. I went to church my whole life. Like Like I was
I never said you didn't
brought
go to
in. I
church.
was like,
I'm just saying where churches
no,
come
I
from.
know, but
And
it's like who cares? That's your experience. That's great. There are non-Christian churches that do the exact same positive work, though, and actually more positive work because they're not prejudiced against people like me. But it's
I'm
fascinating
not
because
prejudiced
you
against
know,
people like you, and I hope no
well,
Christian
you
will
are
be
though. But
prejudiced.
you have to be. It's your
I'm
religion. But
against your
you're either
views, and
bad
I
at your
hope you
religion or
change your
you're either
views.
bad at your
But
religion or you're prejudiced. But the second thing is it does cause harm.
it caused
It does
harm.
cause harm. Your religion does cause harm.
That's not, bro. That's some bogus
Your
ass
religion
shit.
causes harm to my
Be
community.
real, bro. No,
Your
it don't.
religion causes harm to the
What
trans
does a
community,
Christian person do
the
to
gay
you that
community.
causes harm? Please give me a harm that we do to you.
Yeah, so right-wing evangelical Christian lobbyists within the government drastically slowed down the research into AIDS due to their belief that this was caused by God and was justifiably done.
And you
That
know that's the
killed
shit y'all do. You
thousands.
get
One second.
you,
That killed thousands of
bro.
people within my community and still affects my
You
community to
pull
this
out
day.
one bullshit ass point talking about we stopped the cure of AIDS. Man, get the fuck out
Yep,
of here. Come
that
on,
is
man.
what you did. You did
That
slow
shit
down the
sounds
cure of it.
stupid.
You did slow down the treatment and prevention of AIDS. You did.
Nah, people are fucking
I don't
monkeys
know.
slow
Also,
that
the
down.
Inquisitions.
Man, come on. Did that cause harm to you?
I mean, that's why I pointed to something that caused harm to me, which is the slowing down of HIV, because it hurt hundreds of people within my community and still affects me and my community to this day,
Well, you know what?
right?
How
But
long
I
you
mean,
had
the
to
active, like slowing, once again, also slowing and still pushing against gay marriage, right? Up until 2014, y'all lost that battle. Congrats. Absolutely. Plenty of these things still affect me. You don't think that growing up in a society knowing that my nation was so affected by your, you know, extremist and horrendous views that it took them well past a lot of the rest of the developed world to recognize my love? Of course it does. And still in multiple states I don't have equal adoption recognition. Of course that hurts me.
that's it. And half of the things that I'm reading in the comments is like my first point was that people don't want to have to believe in a God because they want to live whatever they want to live and how they want to live it. You know what I mean? They don't want to believe that they're gonna be judged for their sins. And I just want to say that at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, it's good to live a good life, but nobody's perfect. You don't got to be perfect to believe in God. You don't have to make mistakes. I make mistakes every single day. You know what I mean? But in the day, I've got hope for my future. And you're saying that Christians cause pain and hurt on other people. In the majority, man, Christians are some of the most people that's trying to help fundraisers and help people that's struggling and bring people together. There are some bad Christians, yes. There are some bad churches, yes. There's some bad atheists, yes. There's some bad people out of every bunch. But in the general population of our religion is love and is good and is positivity. So you could pull out a couple bad things, and today atheists is 10 times worse than y'all do more harm on anything. The way that y'all live and the way that y'all
In
function.
what way? I mean, we're less criminal than y'all are. We're more educated than y'all are on average. Like, what are you talking
When
about?
you say atheist, you're speaking on pretty much anybody that does not believe in a God. So you're telling me that there's people that does not believe in a
What the
God
word means.
that do bad and horrendous things every single day. I mean, that makes no sense what you're saying. You know what I mean? You're telling me that the people that don't believe in God don't do bad and break
I'm
laws
saying
and
on
hurt people
average
every day.
Christians are more criminal. I'm saying on average Christians are more criminal.
Hey, buddy, I think that point's kind of pulled out your ass. I ain't gonna lie, but
It's not. It's
that's your
statistically
opinion.
true, and on average, atheists are more educated. So if you're pro criminality and anti education, talk to me. But if you're not, you have no clue what you're talking about.
You know what I mean? The shit honestly sounds fucking like it sounds fugazi. You're you're telling me that every atheist, out of all the people that's not in religion, all the horrible acts and the pain they bring on people, and I'm not even gonna say atheist. I'm just gonna say in population as a whole that does not believe in God. You know what I mean? I mean that point that you brought up one point about AIDS
I'm
and
just
said
talking
that
about statistics.
we hurt thousands of people. You know what I mean? It just sounds crazy. And like I said in my first point, if Jesus himself came on earth and did a miracle in front of your face, you would deny it. You would say it's fake. You would say it's something bad. You know what I mean? Anybody would. It doesn't matter what happened.
Great. Man's mad. But I will move on to the next person. Keep on sending likes. Do follow my YouTube. My link is in my bio.
Yo, what's up? Can you hear me?
Appreciate it. Yeah, I can. What's up?
All right, so I have one question to start out is, do you believe
just before you do, how old are you?
I'm 18. I was born in 2005. So do you believe there's any possibility of a higher being or God?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so you believe there's a possibility. So, my basis, like my first argument, is how it all started. So I don't believe that something that's not currently in motion can just be put into motion by nothing, right? So I believe that in order for something to be moved, there has to be a prime mover or an unmoved mover that puts that into place. So obviously that
Why do you believe that?
Because logically, it wouldn't make sense for something to just be moved by nothing, right?
Wait, but that's not a reason. You can't just add logically to a premise and think that it's true.
So in order for there to be an action, there needs to be an object that creates or starts that action. Do you agree with that?
Why do you believe that? I'm asking you why you believe that premise.
Because it's proven.
What do you mean? Like, tell me why. Like,
it can be applied.
It's just being proven, right? Doesn't prove it. I agree that, like, you need to actually have proof for what you're saying.
Yeah, like if something's sitting in front of me, it's not gonna move unless I make it move, unless I put it into motion. It's like the laws of gravity, basically. That same thing. It's not the same thing, but
wonderful. So I'll phrase it for you. We have only ever seen anything move by being moved by something else.
Yeah.
Cool. And your extrapolation from that is that there was something that moved something else without having previously been moved. Aren't those two things directly contradictory?
Well, technically yes, but since you're, I don't know if your argument that everything comes from nothing, I'm not sure how you think everything was created, but I'd be curious to see, like, do you have a quick overview of how you think we came into creation, the world did?
Well, so first of all, I don't find it necessary that we were created. I've never seen anything ever be created, so I don't find it necessary that anything ever was. So there's that. But secondarily, it's entirely possible that we came from, I don't know, we began to exist in an unexplained way, right? Because we can't. Oh, did someone call you?
Began to exist.
Okay, I'm gonna kick you. You have to.
Right, because we
re-request.
Did someone call you? Began to exist. Okay.
Re-request because I'll let you up.
All right, yeah.
Hello.
I call. If we could just start like 5 seconds ago because it was echoing.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, I just don't find it necessary that anything ever began to exist. Oh, you got another call. Okay. Send a guest request again. There we go.
I'm gonna try to one more time.
Great. I just think it's not necessary that anything ever began to exist, and even if it was, I don't think we can extrapolate the rules of our universe into the beginning of our universe.
Okay, I think that's fair. But do you think it's reasonable to think that since like most things in the world or beings are possible beings, like there must have been some time when they didn't exist at all, right? which mean nothing would have existed at that time, right?
Since all beings in the world are possible beings,
Yeah.
there must have been a time in which they didn't exist at all. What do you mean by possible beings?
Like beings that are like that can be created, that can exist and not exist. Like potential.
Yes. So things can exist and non-exist. Yes, I agree. But that doesn't mean that there was ever nothing. No, I don't think no. I don't think that that's a natural extrapolation. Also, how in the world do you have 120,000 followers and have no published videos? Someone's called him again. Yeah. Sus 2.0. Maybe he had a bunch, but I've never seen this guy. Because also, if they were real, it would massively boost my viewership. Maybe he's rebranding, but don't know. Intriguing. He hasn't sent a guest request. Oh well. Is there anything? Let's actually see if there's anything on him. Zelensky. Yeah, typically at that level, you would have something about you, but nothing. Yeah, no, I think it's bot. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Keep on sending likes, everyone, and do follow my YouTube. I really, really appreciate it. Subscribers on YouTube are like 10x more powerful than subscribers on here. It's linked in my bio. Hello, Henry.
How's it going?
Doing real well.
Good, good. So, okay, so there's no good reason for me to believe in your God. I'd have to ask you, which God are you referring to? Because many people think there's many gods.
Well, yours. So whichever one yours is.
Okay. So I have a Christian background. So I have been in the Christian church my whole life. And yeah, that's the Christian faith believes that there's only one true God, and He's the creator of everything.
Why should I
And
believe in that?
exactly. So I'm assuming you don't believe in this. So
Yes.
maybe my question is, why don't you believe in this?
Because I have no good reason to believe in it.
Okay. Do you believe that okay, so do you believe that we are physical, that we have a soul,
Yes,
and that we have a spirit?
I have no good reason to believe in a soul or a spirit.
Okay. How are you alive?
How am I alive?
Yeah. How are you breathing? How do you have emotions? How are you thinking? What is keeping you conscious?
Natural processes.
Like,
You know, respiration.
right. But what's keeping
Okay.
that respiration going? Besides your electrical system in your body, what's powering that operating system?
ATP, like the mitochondria. Like what?
Yeah, those are the biological factors of it, right?
Yes.
But what's the operating system that's powering everything?
What's the operating systems run everything. What's the OS? The biological OS is like my brain and my nervous
Right,
system.
right. And so the OS has to be, like, for example, Windows 95, Windows XP, right? A physical operating system that tells everything what to do, right?
A physical kind of. Just make your analogy. Like
Okay, so what I'm trying to explain is that a computer is very much like a human body, okay? And I'm just trying to make it relatable in that sense because it's kind of difficult to explain in any other sense. Okay, so your operating system is much like your soul. Okay? Your soul is your essence, is who you are, right? Your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions. Okay? Make sense?
I just disagree.
Okay. That's
I
fine.
understand the analogy.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think we need a non-physical explanation for the physical, truths.
So then your physical self is your bones, your muscles, your brain, your lungs, anything physical, tangible, right? And then your spiritual
Cool.
is the stuff that you can't see, right? It's basically like your wireless connection to things around you and to God, your creator. Make sense?
Great. I
Okay.
understand. Yeah.
So whether you believe in God or not, it's undeniable that you were created from something, and it's
It
not from
is
your
that
mom.
is deniable.
Oh, where did you come from?
Through natural processes. Once again, like it's just through natural processes. I've only ever observed people come from natural processes.
Okay.
I've only
Let me
ever
ask
observed anything come from natural processes.
let me ask you this. Where did you get that knowledge from?
From observation. Once again, through a
Obser-
natural process.
Observation of?
Natural processes.
Like what? Give me some examples.
So, how do I know that if I knock over this computer, it will go down? Because I've seen other things fall. Like that's how we obtain knowledge, pattern recognition.
Okay. But I'm asking you, how did you become? You physically, not humans.
Through looking at something, and then extrapolating that observation.
Okay, so you were born from your observation before you were born.
Oh, no, no, no. You said, how do I know things? That's how I know things. What's your new question? Where did I come from?
Yeah.
My mother's womb, which produced me
Okay.
through a natural process.
And where did she come from?
Her mother's womb, and back and so forth and so on.
And so at what point does it stop?
I mean, this is kind of a philosophical
Chicken or
question.
the egg,
What do
right?
you mean at its stop, right?
Chicken
Like
or the
every
egg.
living thing had a parent until like the origin of life, which is a good question, but we would argue something like abiogenesis. You're just asking
So
questions. You're not really making an argument, because when you tried to make an argument, it kind of was just like explaining your worldview, which I know your worldview. I know you
well,
think that a spirit exists.
I'm giving you context towards what I'm trying to explain, and I'm also trying to understand you and figure out
Just try to
where
prove.
where you're getting
Just try
stuck
to
on.
prove.
Well, this is not something I can prove. You have to prove it for yourself. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
you can't prove it? Like,
I mean, I
I
can prove it
understand
for
the Christian.
me.
No, but the thing is there isn't a knowledge gap here. I understand the Christian worldview very
Okay.
well,
Okay.
right? I know
So
the
where you
Christian
stuck?
worldview extraordinarily well. So, is there anything beyond boilerplate Christianity that you're going to give me?
So where are you stuck?
I
Maybe
just
that.
disagree. I understand and
Oh, okay.
disagree.
And that's perfectly fine. You
I'm
can
not. Yeah, I'm not
you can
stuck.
disagree all day long. It's I
Exactly.
just
Yes,
want to
that's
make
yeah.
sure I just want to make sure that you have the full context of the story. You're not just saying this because you have questions that maybe you need answered to, and I'm trying to give you those answers. That's what I'm trying to do. Make sense? I'm not trying to
Cool. Yeah.
convince you of anything. Okay.
Oh, okay. Then
Ultimately,
yeah, this is
ultimately,
debate.
everybody's journey is up to them. Okay. And you're on your own, right? And eventually, whether you like it or not, you're going to come to seek truth. Okay. At the
I've
end of the
sought truth, and it has not led me towards Christianity.
well, maybe not now, maybe in the
And in
future.
court, this is wait, but like pride is a sin. I'd prefer if you didn't show it on my live. Like that's so prideful, right? You have to
What
see how
is?
people see that as the meaning,
What
right?
is?
I say I've seeked my own truth, right, and it's not led me to you, and you're like, well, it will eventually,
That's not
unequivocally.
prideful. It's true. Truth
It's just
changes
pride,
over
but it's
time
also pride. It's extraordinary amounts of pride, right?
because
Um,
you don't have
because I
absolute truth at this point.
and neither do you.
I do.
You believe yourself to, but I disagree,
Yes.
right?
And that's all you
But
can
I
ask
believe
for.
myself to have at least some form of truth, right?
Okay.
And I believe you have some form of truth. Also, you don't think you have absolute truth, right? You don't think you know all truth. You don't think you have a full understanding of every truth, right? You believe you
No.
have one proposition correct, that a God exists, and you understand what the God
Well,
does. But you don't even claim to believe God, to understand God wholly. But once again, so you have nothing of value to add. I understand your worldview. I've read quite a lot of your mythology. I've read quite a lot of the propaganda that has been released over the years by people like you, for you, pro Christianity, right? I understand like the idea of a soul. I understand the idea of heaven and hell. You don't need to threaten mythological things to me, right? I
listen,
understand
hold on,
Christian.
hold on for a second. 1 second. You don't even know me, first of all. You don't know who I am. We've never talked.
You don't know me
So,
either.
so
I'm
you're
treating you how
so
you
you're
treat.
generalizing me into this category
Not
of
generalizing.
people.
You said you were a Christian. I said people like you a Christian.
Well, that's still generalizing, right? You're putting me in a
It's not.
box.
They are like you in that they're a Christian.
Well, okay, maybe the religious beliefs, but you also
So
agree
that's
that there
all I
are
was comparing. Is other
okay,
people who have your religious beliefs have explained your religious beliefs to you.
but there are also different types of Christianity. You realize that, right?
No, I know. I just don't care, right? Like
Okay.
I
I'm just making
understand, but
sure,
they've
making
explained the
sure.
exact same thing to me. They've explained the exact same thing to me. I understand the soul, which you described to me. Lots of other Christians did, and equally, right? You label yourself a Christian. There are certain commonalities amongst the Christian faith, right?
Mhm.
Like we can talk about the Nicene Creed, which I'm very certain that you fall within one of the faiths that ascribe to something similar to it, right? Like there are commonalities amongst these things, and I understand the
Sorry, the
commonalities
what?
amongst these things. Nicene
What
Creed.
what is that?
One of the oldest documentations of the almost ubiquitous Christian belief systems.
Okay, can you explain it?
You don't know the Nicene Creed? It's a huge part of Christian history.
Explain it.
The Nicene, I don't have it memorized, right? But the Nicene Creed was an origin, it was developed out of the Nicene Council, and it was one of the first major ubiquitous statements of universal Christian principles, right? Which was one of the main ones was the truth of the Trinity, right? So at post-Nicene Creed, Unitarians were almost completely schismed from the church. So there's that. But yeah, once again, if you're not here to give me a good reason to believe in God, I'll find someone who can, and I will appreciate you coming up.
Okay. Well, the only reason I can give you is just go straight to the source. Don't go to people's opinions because they're going to
I
misguide you.
have, and it's wrong. Cool.
Okay.
I don't believe that I can't support a source that condones slavery. I can't support a source that condones homophobia. I can't support a source that actively attacks my community. And so I've
Are
read the
you
source
are
and
you
I think it's
sure are
applicable to
you
the
sure the
justice.
source is condoning it, or is it just contextual
Condoning it, yeah.
information of history, historical events?
No, it's condoning it.
Okay, I have not found that. I've found context
That's it.
of historical stuff in the Bible. I've
When it
never
says
found it.
when it says Israelites do not enslave your own, but enslave people outside of Israel on these conditions, that's condoning.
Okay. Well, and who wrote that?
I mean, I believe it's within Leviticus, so hypothetically Moses inspired from God.
You believe, or you're not sure.
That seems to be what the historical consensus suggests. That is the canon of the Catholic Church, or it's not really the historical consensus. There's questions as to whether Moses existed, but if you accept the historical notes that Moses existed, Leviticus was written by Moses. It's the canon of the Catholic Church. It's the canon of a huge amount of rabbinic Jews. So
So I'm assuming you don't pray.
no,
Okay. You know, there's more scientific literature that agrees with the Bible than disagrees. You realize that, right?
in what capacity? It agrees with certain parts of the Bible, but very, very, very few
Well, because science
upstanding
is
historians will say,
behind.
very, very few of upstanding historians will suggest that Jesus was resurrected. Next to no upstanding historians will.
Well,
So, I mean, if the
regardless of
Bible just says the sky is blue, right?
sure.
And then in the next sentence, God says God exists. And then science is like, well, yeah, the sky is blue. Well, yeah, then we agree with the Bible. But it doesn't mean we agree with all of the statements of it.
Yeah, but there's a lot of historical and scientific things or knowledge that are just now being discovered that the Bible It's been written in the Bible for thousands of years previous. You realize that?
Example?
Prayer. When you go to a psychologist, for example, they talk about self-talk, right? The things you say to yourself, right? Positive affirmations, probably some buzzwords that you're hearing now. Well, that was known even before Moses' time, right?
Yeah.
Prayer.
So
Prayer
it
is more.
wasn't divinely inspired.
Prayer is more for you than it is for God. He already knows
Great.
what's going
So
on.
it wasn't divinely inspired.
It was.
Okay, it was known before Moses' time. Divinely inspired
Yeah.
to whom? Who's
Our
the prophet
Creator,
that said it?
our Creator has instilled this mechanism inside of us.
Oh, I mean, you can make that proposition, but that doesn't seem to be clear,
Okay,
right? So the fact that we know something, like like toddlers naturally swim.
so let me explain. Let me explain the
that mean that-
psychology behind it. So it's called positive psychology. You have
No,
you
I
have
don't disagree.
subconscious.
I understand the psychology behind it. This isn't about the psychology. It's about the divinity of it. If
Okay.
people have a natural tendency to do something, right, and that thing is helpful, that doesn't mean that it's divinely inspired. What's your evidence that it's divinely inspired?
You're wired naturally to pray.
Okay, I'm wired naturally to heal wounds, and I'm wired naturally to swim as a toddler. That doesn't mean that it's divinely
Exactly.
inspired. This is begging the question.
You're naturally
You
wired
believe
to
God.
breathe. You're naturally wired to sleep. You're naturally wired to
Yep,
eat.
none of
You're
this,
naturally
and we've
wired.
observed these traits develop naturally, right? Because psychology, like we've observed behavioral traits evolve naturally. So what that seems to suggest is that this derived from random natural processes much more than divine inspiration.
Random natural processes. Random, as in you can't explain it, correct? Is science
No.
definite?
Is science definite? What does that mean? Science is a process of acquiring knowledge.
Okay. Is it definite? Is it absolute?
Is the process of acquiring, what would it mean for a process of acquiring knowledge to be absolute?
I'm asking you, is science absolute? Is it 100% fact and it does not change?
So it's all fact, it does change.
Okay. So therefore, this random term that you're adding to this word explains that we don't understand where it comes from. Correct?
No.
So what does it imply?
What does random imply?
What did you say? Random natural selection, correct?
Yeah.
What is
That
that
it's not
term?
entirely orderly.
Okay. So if it's not
That's what it implies.
orderly, then where do we know where its origins come from?
I mean, we observe randomness consistently.
Sure.
It's just the description of like large scale numeric non yet calculable odds.
Okay. In other words, we don't know. Right?
Or we haven't been bothered to ask, like,
We don't know.
or we haven't
Okay.
been bothered to ask. Like we know that mutations happen. We know how they happen, but mutations are random, right? Because they don't happen, right? They happen in a predictable manner, but not in an orderly manner.
Okay. So we know the science behind certain things. We know the why they happen, but we don't know where they came from.
What does it mean where they came from? It's a meaningless assertion.
No, everything starts from something, no?
Not, I mean, kind of. Everything kind of continues from other things.
Well, no, you just can't. Can you like just create something from nothing?
No, but that doesn't mean it started or ended. It's just kind of continuing from other things. Like this is why, like, what do you mean? Like, of course science knows where, like in that sense of where it comes from. Yeah, science knows I came from my mother.
Okay, but I'm just talking about
And it
humans.
knows how I came from my mother, and it knows why I came from my mother.
Where did
Like,
humans come from?
what do you mean?
Where did humans come from?
Where do humans come from? We've asked this question quite a lot, right? And what we've seen to do is we evolved through natural processes from other species.
And is that 100% accurate? Is that factual and cannot be changed?
So something can be factual and can be changed with new evidence.
Okay,
I think
so
you're
it's
conflating a
so it's
lot of
not.
things.
It's a
How
scientific
are you
theory,
asking how? But this is the thing: is
correct?
you don't know anything for certain as you're describing it.
I thought we
We
had
observe
science
things
to
and
prove
draw
that.
conclusions and accept the most likely conclusion.
Aha. So therefore,
That's how everyone does everything.
exactly. So how do you know that God does not exist?
I don't.
Right. That's exactly my point.
But if you had started this conversation and asked me, I would have said that.
Okay.
I don't know that God. I'm an agnostic atheist. That's my whole position.
Well, you
Is I
can't be an
don't know that God
agnostic
exists, so therefore I
atheist.
don't believe that God
You're
exists.
either
What?
agnostic or you're atheist. You can't be both.
That's just incorrect.
Just because someone made it a thing, it's not. Agnostic means what?
You don't believe that there exists enough evidence to point to the existence or non-existence of a God.
Agnostic?
Yep.
That's not what that means.
Okay, let's get Oxford Languages.
Sure.
Shout out Oxford. Rock on, Wayne. Agnostic definition. A person who believes that nothing is known or can be known about the existence or nature of a God.
And an atheist?
A person who disbelieves or lacks belief in the existence of a God or gods.
So if you're agnostic, that means you don't have a specific framework for God. But if you're an atheist, that means you don't believe in a God. So you're contradicting yourself. You realize that, right?
No, so I believe that nothing is known or can be known, and therefore I lack a belief in the existence of a God.
Okay. Yeah. Exactly
So
what I just said.
I say no one can know anything about that, so I lack a belief on it.
Gotcha. Okay. So therefore we came from we don't know.
Actually, we have pretty good evidence from where humans developed from, right? Which is a long line of the great apes, which we are a great ape as well.
But that's science. That's not
But
absolute.
everything's a theory. Once everything's a
Right.
theory.
Exactly.
Everything we don't know for certain. Everything is science. Science is merely a process. This is such like ignorant demonization of science. Science is a process.
It's not demonization. Listen, I'm all for science. I just think people hold science as truth and fact, and when people like you hold lies on TikTok,
I don't hold science as truth.
Some people don't know that though, so your viewers don't know that.
Cool.
So
Let's say just for the
it's
record, I
important
don't
that
hold
you
science as truth. I hold
underline
the
that.
conclusion. I hold the conclusions of science as true. Science is a process,
But even the
right,
conclusion
to
is not
derive
truth.
truth.
Even the
Science
conclusion
is
is
a
not truth.
process to derive truth. Science is a process, right, of observation and affirmation to derive truth. And I believe that it is one of the most consistently proven ways of deriving truth due to consistent reliability and recognition of reality. Religion, on the other hand, is a horrendous way to derive truth due
Let me
to its
ask you
consistent.
this.
Okay.
Have you ever seen two scientists that study the same thing but have two opposing opinions
Yep.
on something that's factual?
Yeah, hundreds of times.
So what's true?
Well, I've seen hundreds of religious people do the same thing. Right? The joke is you can't walk into like, you know, some of my good Jewish friends would say 2 Jews, 3 opinions. Right? Like if you ask if you ask 2 rabbis something, they're going to disagree.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Religious people also disagree. Congrats. The question
Exactly.
is, in fact, right? What is going to be the most reliable, and how do we judge reliability of reality? Is by its consistent predictability. So there are good measures for factuality and for making conclusions, which is their prediction of the future. You know, religion is very bad at predicting the future, whereas science is very good at predicting the future. The law of gravity holds up like 99.999999999% of the time. And then what they disagree on is how to account for that 1%, right? Religion fails most of the time. Even in your worldview, religion fails most of the time. You believe that Muslims are wrong. You believe that Hindus are wrong. You believe that Buddhists are wrong. right? So even in your worldview, religion is a very bad predictor of truth. Whereas in my worldview, science is almost consistently correct. It's very predictable, right? And then we have
Do
debates
you
to
know
develop and account for more and more.
do you know why I would believe that some of those religions are wrong?
Because
But
they
why
don't
is
accept
it
Jesus
important?
Christ as Lord and Savior.
Exactly. That's a big why.
You keep pretending like these
Huge
are
why.
points. Yeah, I know, because that's your dogma. They disagree with your dogma. The
Well, it's not.
difficulty about dogma, right?
Listen,
It's not a point. Like
it's
it's
not
very
just
clear. Yeah,
my
everyone knows
dogma.
your dogma.
It's not just my dogma. Clearly,
It's not
archaeologists
just your dogma, but it is your dogma. It's the dogma that you hold.
you realize archaeologists use timelines based off of Jesus' timeline as well. You realize that, right?
What?
Clearly,
Are you talking
science.
about Are you talking about AD like BC?
Yeah,
I
you know
know,
that.
most of the academic, it's actually uncouth to do that anymore. Most of the academic
Well,
community has
sure, because
gone to be.
all of your educational institutions have turned
Yeah, so
into
so
atheism.
your point was wrong. So wait, no, so
No,
the
it's
second
not
that
wrong.
the A
It's
wait,
actually
so
very right.
the second that academics are supporting you, oh, must be right. But the second
No,
that we
no.
actually recognize reality, which is that academics aren't supporting that, oh, they're corrupt and are
The second,
supporting
the
me. Like,
second,
okay, what?
the second that
Hypocrisy at its
academics,
finest.
the second that academics start changing things to exclude God, when from the beginning God was involved, just to fit the narrative that there is no God, is when I have a problem.
I mean,
I'm 34.
using
I'm
these,
34. Okay, so
congrats.
I've been on Earth a little bit longer than you have, and I've seen this
Don't
happen
care.
literally right in front of my eyes.
It
Okay,
literally doesn't matter.
and I'm also in education. I'm an educator. Okay,
I'm currently in education as well,
so I've
in that
seen
I'm
this.
college.
I have seen no. I'm a teacher. Okay, I
I
teach,
mean, once again, congrats. I'm
and
a law
so
student. I
I
read
have
law.
seen textbooks change before my eyes. I've seen material change before my eyes. Okay, I've seen colleges start to teach things differently. Okay, so the
Information updating and changing
no, it's not.
must be Satan.
It's not information changing or updating. It's information erasing and completely
What do you
not
think?
even
But in order
teaching
to
it.
change it, you must erase something to replace it with something else, right?
Right.
Like, what are you talking about?
And
What are you doing?
everything. Let me
Oh
tell you
no!
something. Let me
We
tell you
get
something.
more accurate and more
No.
progressive information and ideas. Terrifying. Like,
Everything that's being changed has an atheistic worldview.
they don't have
Everything.
an atheistic worldview. They have a secular
100%
worldview.
do. No. It's
They have a
human.
secular worldview. There's a
Literally, it's
difference
called
between a secular and atheistic. Okay,
it's called
what
humanism.
changed to say that
Do you
God doesn't
realize?
exist?
You know what humanism is?
Yeah, you can be a theistic humanist.
Yes. And it's exactly that. It's that concept.
Wait, but a theistic humanist would agree with you. You can be a Christian humanist.
No. Just a humanist.
No, you can be, but humanism, right, is not necessarily atheistic or theistic. Actually, humanism isn't is itself a theistic worldview. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You see what I'm talking about? The terms that they keep adding in here to try to prove their point and justify. They've all these terms are brand new. They've literally within the last 15, 20 years they've been coming
What
up.
term?
The term you literally just every single term that you've literally said
What,
out of your mouth.
humanism? Humanism?
No. The
Because
previous
humanism has been
terms.
around at least for
Previous
the past
terms you've
90
used.
years.
The previous terms you've used. Like
Secular?
literally your entire framework, your perspective is something recent.
Atheist? Atheist existed for 150 years.
No.
Agnostic has
Not
existed for like
atheism.
90 years.
Not
So
atheism,
what
not
word?
agnostic.
Give me one.
Lit,
What are you talking
you
about?
literally everything you're saying comes from a public
What
school
word?
worldview.
Give me a
You
word.
realize that. You realize that,
What
right?
word?
Did you go to public
What
school?
word? Yeah, I did.
Okay. And you're in public college, I'm assuming.
No. I don't.
You don't go to college at all?
No, I'm not in a public college.
So what
I mean,
kind of
I guess
college are
it's
you
like a
in?
quasi-public college. I actually don't know the funding structure of Oxford University.
Pretty sure it's public.
Oxford?
If they receive government funds, it's public.
Oh yeah, but like everything, like that's not really the bar.
Which literally
Um,
means they're being controlled by public entities, which means the Department of Education gets to choose what's in their curriculum. Did
the
you realize
Department of
that?
the Department
Yeah,
of Education
the federal Department of Education at the federal level.
of the United States.
Yes, sir.
You you think that the federal you think that the federal Department of Education in the United States is determining what the University of Oxford teaches?
If they're receiving public funding, yes, 100%. They can lose their funding if they don't, just like your public schools, just like your public colleges and universities.
So, let's just brainstorm. Where else could public funding come from other than the United States Federal Department of Education?
That's irrelevant. If you want U.S. funds, you're gonna follow U.S. policies and rules, and if you don't, you'll lose it. Simple as that.
Okay, okay. I'm having good fun. Do you know where Oxford is?
Where is it? Where are you?
Okay,
Are you in the
it's
U.S.?
in the United
You in the
Kingdom.
United States?
It's about 2 hours out of London.
Are you in the United States?
No, I'm in the United Kingdom. I go to school in the United Kingdom.
Oh, okay, cool, cool. So then, if it's
Yeah.
in the
You
UK,
don't know
then
where
you
Oxford
know.
Wait, you don't know where Oxford University is, though?
If it's in the UK, then you know that most likely it's not controlled by the U.S. government, right?
Yeah.
It's probably controlled by, you know, you have no
By
idea.
who?
I don't know. I don't
Wait,
live
no,
in the
that
UK.
wasn't a question. I thought you were going to finish the statement. Oxford is a entirely self-governing organization and gets more private funding than it does public funding. It's actually one of the wealthiest independent organizations of
Okay,
education within the UK
so it's
due
a
to its
private.
$7 billion private endowment. But it
Okay,
still
cool.
received public funds. Like most even private or
Okay, but
institutions receive public funds.
public government funding, not like public, like from the general public is what I mean, not from public
No, I
entities
mean
like
grant
companies and
funding.
corporations. I'm talking federal funds, right? But of course,
Well,
the
we don't really
UK
have that concept in the
yeah, the
UK.
UK structure is
Federal.
different over there. Over here in the US, that's how it's set up, and
No, but wait, but
everything.
basically, even private institutions, right, like Liberty University, for example,
Yeah,
still receive some federal funding,
and they are
right,
subject to
through Pell
federal
Grant.
regulations because they receive federal funding. I know this because
Kind of. It depends. I mean, it's kind of
I work
complicated.
listen,
So there,
I work at a private school and we have to follow public regulations or else we will
yeah,
lose
but
our
not all
funding.
of them. You have to follow different fund. You have to follow different regulations. But
Anything and everything. So like for example, when COVID happened,
not anything and everything. You
yeah,
don't.
yeah, no, yes. When COVID
It's
happened,
not true.
they actually threatened here in the US to shut us down if we did not require vaccination from from all of our employees. Of course.
Yeah, I mean, very cool. But once again, it's not every regulation. There are many American legislations that only apply to public schools and not private schools,
Well,
right? Specifically, like
whatever,
religious regulations, right? Like y'all
yeah,
are able to have teacher-led prayer, and we're
sure.
not in public school. So it's not every regulation. It's actually a huge swath of regulations that are specifically protected by like the amendments that y'all don't have to follow. So it's just totally
You,
not true to suggest that they have entire unilateral control over your curriculum.
you
But
know,
secondarily, right? This what?
you would think that living in the United States, we would have the protection of the U.S. Constitution.
We
Unfortunately,
do.
unfortunately, that is being eroded very quickly because of the principles that I've highlighted previously. Okay,
What, this
where people in
Illuminati level
government.
conspiracy theory?
No. This is legit. It's not conspiracy. We literally have lawsuits in place. My organization specifically has attorneys fighting
Yeah, you have
battles in
lawsuits.
courts
You have
right
lawsuits
now.
based on like this is just Wait, okay. This is hilarious. First of all, I am from the U.S. by the way, so I live in the U.S. I go to school in the U.K. I have a huge
Okay,
background
so
in American
so if
politics
you
and
so okay
political studies,
so
and then I'm studying English law. This is just not true. Like
so if you're
if
in
you
the
have
U.S. if you're in the U.S. and you're going through school virtually, then the Oxford clearly has some sort of federal funding from the United
no, I
States.
live in I live in the U.S. I go to school in the U.K. So I live in the U.K. like when I'm at school. So
Oh, I
I'm
see.
not
I see. I
virtually.
see. I gotcha. I gotcha. So it's
Yeah.
again, it's still different over there, but over here, it's yeah. Whoever has the money controls everything essentially.
Yeah, but you realize like most like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, such like they have billions to themselves. They don't need the federal funding. They still take the federal funding. They don't need it.
Where do you think those billions came from?
Investment.
Not always.
I mean, the vast majority of it came from a return on investment.
And grant funding from the federal government, especially
I
when the
mean, a
colleges and
comparatively, I
universities
mean,
needed
out
bailout.
of something like the $60 billion that Harvard has, right? A large amount of their operating budget comes from funding from the federal government, not a huge amount of their endowment. The vast majority of the endowment is
Let's just say
directly to.
if they lost their federal funding tomorrow, they would be in trouble.
No, they wouldn't. They would be
They would
entirely fine. Actually, the
they would
interest on their
literally
endowment would well overcover it.
they would literally
It's
have
well
to.
known that Princeton. It's well known that Princeton has enough money to cover. I don't. What was it? It was tuition for every single student for the next 100 years. They
Well,
would be
then
fine.
why don't they?
Why don't they? Because they're capitalistic assholes.
Exactly.
That's why.
Exactly.
Yeah, but once
And
again, Henry, this is a doomerist way of looking at it. Why do you believe that the government is on the side of the woke atheists, right, rather than the Christian evangelicals, right? When, if we look at the makeup of the government, most of them are theists, most of them are Christians.
it's not
The
the
vast majority
government
of the
per
Christians are
se.
evangelical
It's not the
Christians, and
government
even
per se.
the Supreme. Okay, is it like the lizard people? Like, who is it, Henry?
It's the people who are in positions of authority within certain ranks of government, such as the Department of
To who?
Education.
Which is ran by Christians by and large.
You're telling me that the person at the top of the head of the federal U.S. Department of Education is Christian?
Yep, let's look up. I don't have it off the top of my hand. It's Miguel Cardona is the Secretary of Education. Grew up, earned a bachelor's, dissertation. What is his current religion? Incumbent commissioner. Where's his personal information? Oh, yeah, he's a Catholic.
Are you on Wikipedia? Is that where you're at?
Yeah.
Okay. And so he makes
who
the
else do you
final
want?
decision on everything, right?
I mean, not on everything. He basically has the final veto.
Where's there a board?
There's not really a board, so it's a large structure.
There's not a board to the Department of Education.
But most federal employees are Christians.
Okay, we don't know that for a fact. And even if they
I do
were,
know
you
that
already
for a fact.
you
That is
already
just statistically
admitted.
true. Most of them are Christians.
And even if they were, you already admitted that most Christians are not really, faithful to whatever they believe in, right?
Yeah, but who are
So
they faithful to? Like, what's their purpose? Like, this
so
is
how
the
do you
thing: is
know what their
it's not
moral
the
stance
atheist
is?
mob invading the government to attack your liberties. If anything, right, it is the Christian mob invading the government to attack my liberties, right?
You realize
because it is
the
the huge
Catholics
majority of the
have
government.
more. You realize the Catholics have more atheistic worldviews than Christian, right?
Catholics are Christians, but we can have the debate later. Like, Catholics are Christians. You're talking about Protestants.
They're not. They're not
They are.
considered to be 100% Christian. No.
But this is just no true Scotsmaning. I don't care about your internal mythological strifes. The point is, right, is most of the Supreme Court is Christian, right? The people that have the final say
Do you
on
know what
whether
Christian
the
is? Do you know what that means to be a Christian?
so I would define the general definition that I would give, right, is a person who accepts Jesus Christ as the Lord and Savior, right? That would be by and large. We could go into specifically what that means, but people typically identify with the values, goals, and ideological orientations of Jesus Christ as recorded in the New Testament.
And is a follower of Jesus Christ.
I would disagree. You could be a sinful Christian. I think most people would agree with that.
You could, but you would just be sinful, right?
Yeah, but I think you would be a sinful Christian. Yeah.
Not very
So
Christian
you're
like.
still, I
Not
think
very
you would still be,
Christ-like.
yeah, you want to be very Christ-like, but you would still be a Christian.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not really about how you act, it's about what you believe.
And so who do Catholics hold higher in standard?
Jesus.
Are you sure?
Yeah, they hold Jesus higher than the Pope.
Not Mary?
They don't hold Mary higher than Jesus, no.
Well, you might have to do some research on that.
They don't
Anyways.
hold Mary higher than Jesus, no. That's not true. They hold Mary as a saint, I believe, and as a very important. She's apostatized, but she's not higher than Jesus, no.
Okay. But do they pray to Mary or do they pray to Jesus?
Yeah, but they pray to lots of saints.
Right. And I think in the Bible it says, beware of false idols. Right?
Yeah, but they argue it's not a false idol because they're praying to God through the saints.
Well, they can argue whatever they want. Their Bible says it, right?
No, I know. Right. So you can think that once again, you can think that they're bad at being Christian, right? But they still would say that they accept Jesus Christ as the Lord and Savior, and then they follow Jesus as documented in the New Testament as far as they understand it.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like once again, this is just an internal mythological strife. Because I would think that most Protestant views are entirely wrong. Because I mean, obviously, the Catholics argue that Jesus founded the Catholic Church and handed off the Catholic Church as the one true church. And there's that whole argument. It just doesn't really matter.
It just keeps
right?
going and going. Yeah.
I know, but if you're going to argue that there's some big lobby against you by the atheists, I need to see this lobby. The lobby doesn't exist. You know where the lobby does exist? The whole entire Republican Party being openly, actively lobbyists for Christians. Right. You understand that the party that has the most representatives, right, or has had the most representatives recently, is actively a Christian lobbyist organization.
You realize the United States was fundamentally Christian, right?
Absolutely, totally false. That is a lie spread by the Republicans.
So what was it?
Categorically untrue. It was founded as a secular nation.
No, it was not.
It was.
Where in
our Constitution, where in our one legal founding document is God?
You need to do some research on our founding fathers. Okay.
No, our founding fathers can be Christian all they want.
And so they instilled
not all
fundamental.
Of them were, by the way. You would not consider most of them Christian, by the way.
Regardless of what they believe or not, their foundations are morals. And the morals that were instilled within our country are Christian morals.
Okay, where in the Constitution does it mention Christianity?
All you have to do is look at the Ten Commandments, and you realize that the Ten Commandments are directly in line with many of our laws.
Do you think "Thou shalt not kill"?
What's the first? Yeah, exactly. Let's go there.
Yeah. But this is so stupid. Do you think that was the first peoples to believe that?
Maybe not. Maybe.
Do you think that all people that believed it after believed it because of the Ten Commandments?
Regardless, we have it as our laws.
No,
here.
but this is so dumb though. It's not regardless. You can't just ignore the obvious defeating argument, which is that "thou shalt not kill" is just a fundamental, obvious view, right? That most people hold. Like the fact that
according to Scripture,
this person believes that we shouldn't kill people, and this society believes that we shouldn't kill people.
So according to Scripture, those commandments came from God to Moses, right? And they were to be followed. Okay. So if we're talking about Scripture, then previous to that, well, I am, because that's my foundation. Okay. Previous to that, There could not have been a law on that.
So your view is genuinely that no other society believed that killing was wrong.
Well, if you're looking at it from a scientific worldview,
I just want to know what your view is. Like, is that your
where there are
genuinely, like, in
other,
your mind, is that genuinely what you think?
where there are previous societies to whatever the Bible says there are, right?
Were there previous societies to Moses coming down and saying that it was wrong to kill? That belief.
Regardless, it's a Christian
No,
value.
I want an answer. No, I want an answer.
It's a Christian value, okay? Regardless.
No, I want an answer. No, it's not a Christian. It's one of the Christian values, but it's also a Jewish value, right?
Which,
So do you believe that we are a Jewish nation?
where did Jesus come from?
He's a Jew. Do you believe that we are a Jewish nation?
So okay,
Do
hang
you?
on.
And no, I'm not. The thing is, like, I engage with things you say. I attempt to have a continuous conversation. Do you believe that we are a Jewish nation?
Do I believe the Jewish believe the same
Do you
laws
believe
apply
that we
to
are a
Christians
Jewish
as
nation?
Jewish?
Do you believe we are a Jewish nation? Do you believe we are a Jewish nation?
No, we're a Christian nation. I already said that.
Okay, cool. Then it is also a Jewish value, so your argument doesn't hold up. It is also a Hindu value. Hindus believe in the sanctity and value of life. Are we a Hindu nation?
But regardless, you have to understand. You have to understand.
Are we a Hindu nation?
Were any of our forefathers Hindu or Jewish?
Is that what we are? Are we a Hindu nation? No, we're not. This is such a dumb argument.
Civilization
Hindus also believe in the value and sanctity of life.
Okay. During America's time of coming up, were there any Hindus or any Jewish people inside of America?
Yes and yes.
Where?
In America.
You mean, okay, so you're telling me that our forefathers were Jewish and Indian.
That's not what you asked.
That's what I'm asking. Our founding
that's
fathers.
Your new question.
Our founding fathers.
Our founding fathers, by and large, were not Christian.
Okay, but they were.
No, they weren't.
Okay, some were.
Some were, yeah, but most of them were not what you would call Christian.
So therefore, their values that they've instilled within our country come from?
Some were Christian. Not all, not most.
Christian
So
values.
why are you arguing that we're a Christian nation and not a deist nation?
Because they've taught students like you in school, in high school, to debate.
Wait, no, but this is just the truth. It doesn't matter what they taught me if it's the
people
truth.
like me.
Like, the fact is more of them were not Christian than were Christian.
Listen.
So why are we not a non-Christian?
You're
nation?
not gonna bait me into
the Christian founders said explicitly that they were founding a secular nation. If you read any of their works, they said that they founded this to be independent and abdicated from religion. Because if we look at the foundation of America in an honest perspective, right, it was made to escape religious persecution and religious doctrines. It was made to escape the theocracy of the British Church at the time, right? So why in the world would we escape a British Church and then found a country that is a given religion, right? It's totally nonsensical with like.
Do you realize that Christianity in the scriptures is not, first of all, it's not even a thing. Second of all, it's not even a religion. Do you realize that?
I mean, I would class what they document in the Bible as religion, right?
Well,
like having a
Oxford Dictionary classifies Christianity as a religion, right? But that's not
also
really
the definition of religion is the belief in or worship of a superhuman powers or power, especially a god or gods. So the apostles worshipped, right, a god or gods. So it's
not a god, lowercase g, the only God, capital G. There's a big difference there.
The apostles, they worship like the God,
the only God
that you would be talking about. Yeah,
capital
so they
G.
worshipped
the creator of all things.
The one you believe in. The one you believe in, yeah.
Well, the only one. That it's not just that I believe in, it's the only one that exists. Because everything else is an idol.
Once again, according to your belief.
Well, not just my belief.
And other people who have the same delusion as you. Yeah.
No, no. I think you need to do some research on the different types of religions, okay? Because I think you're not understanding that there are different types of
I think I'm the
religions.
only one that's given an accurate historical analysis of other religions. I feel like you've been the one who's actively ignored them. So
I'm not ignoring
I
it.
don't know where
I hear
I
you.
don't know where you think my confusion is coming from.
Well, so how do I explain this? So, like I said, Christianity believes in one God, and that's the God that created everything. Okay. Other religions may have multiple gods. They have one God, maybe they have a
I
thousand
believe in
gods.
polytheism.
Okay.
I'm aware of polytheism.
Okay. So
Do you think that Christianity is the
monotheism
only
and polytheism.
monotheistic religion?
You realize, so you do know the difference between mono and poly. Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah, but it's really weird. But who cares? Once again, like I'm aware, but Christianity isn't the only
Well,
or
it's
first
huge.
monotheistic religion.
But it's huge. It's huge because, again, this is where the dilution principle comes in, where they're just trying to put us all together in one pot. And that's not
Who?
accurate.
Who and whom? Like who's putting you
Whatever.
all together in one pot and who's all the one pot? Like
The influences that be. Okay.
this
Whatever
is so like
influences.
this is so cryptic. I'm just not going to take you seriously if you keep talking about the lizard people. Like
It's not
it's
lizard people. It's real people. Real
it
humans.
is. What you're saying is the lizard people. Like it is.
It's
It's
the
the
people who
influences
taught
that
you.
from my view, the influences that be are Christians,
It's
right?
the people
Like
who have taught
In
you.
America, Christians are the one with the money. We've never not had a Christian or Catholic president, right?
Okay.
Most
Well, that's
people
not
within.
true.
Okay, who? If within modern history, I'll give you because there were deist presidents.
Okay.
Have we ever had a Jewish president? A Muslim
going.
president?
Keep going.
Have we ever had a Jewish president, a Muslim president, a Hindu president? No, we haven't.
We've had Muslim
They've
presidents.
all. What Muslim president?
What religion is Barack Obama?
He is a Christian.
He's not. He's Muslim.
He is not. In what world?
You know, Muslims call themselves Christian too. You know that, right?
No, they don't.
Some do.
Okay, according to whom is he Muslim?
And they think Allah is God.
Yeah, you think Allah is God as well.
No. Allah is not God.
You do.
Allah
do.
is.
They're
Allah
referencing.
is not
They're
the real
referencing the
God.
same being.
No.
They're referencing the same being. Allah
They-
is just their term for God. It's the same thing as Yeshua.
They say it's
Or
the same
Yahweh.
being, but it's not. It's not.
But do you think it's another being?
Again, it's an idol.
So what is it?
It's not a God. It's a lowercase g. God.
So do you think it exists?
No, it doesn't exist. I mean,
So what
unless
do
they
they
have a
refer
totem
to
pole
as the
for it or
word?
something.
But the thing is they're referring. So in your worldview, there is a real thing that is a God, right? And they are saying, "Hey, Christians, we're referring to the same thing as you, but here's what we think he did." So they have a different perspective on what this exact same thing did. They're referring to the same thing. You just think that they're wrong about what it did. Why do I have to explain your own theology to you?
You don't have to. I understand my own theology, and I understand
And
their
you're quoting
theology.
wrong. This isn't even the official view. Like Christians just think that Muslims are wrong about what God did, right? But they're
No.
not making an idol. They're referring to the wrong. They're referring to the same thing, thinking it did different things. That's what they say.
Well, that's what they say,
Allah
but
is literally another
what
term,
they believe
right,
is
for
very
God.
different from
The
what
same
they
term
say.
for God.
No.
Do
What
you
they
think that when
bel-
we translate the word God, they're referring to something else?
what they believe is different from what they say? Okay. Like they don't even believe that Jesus is
Okay.
God.
Well, Barack
They believe
Obama is
he's
not a
some
Muslim.
sort of
That's
prophet.
that's just a xenophobic rumor.
Okay.
Barack Obama, it's just xenophobic. It's
Regardless.
borderline racist.
Regardless, our country, as you know it, is slowly being eroded with these worldviews.
I disagree. Like once again, just disagree.
Well, you can disagree all you want. It's happening, and it's happening in your time.
Okay, then why
You're
do
seeing-
we have the highest why do we have the highest economic success that we've had throughout our country right?
That's
If it's eroding
that's
so much.
relevant.
Why are the fewest people in the history of our world, right, dying from preventable diseases, right? Why do we have the lowest rate of malnutrition and starvation throughout our
Why do we have the
our
highest rate of mental illness and prescription drug use and opioid use? You want me to keep going down that rabbit hole? I mean, clearly there's
But
something wrong internally with
we have
every single human
why do we have
being.
higher mental wait why do we have higher mental health rates? Because we diagnose more mental health and then we
No,
treat it properly. Because
no,
less people die from mental health now.
no, that's
Isn't that
not
crazy?
true.
Isn't
That's
that
not
crazy
accurate.
that now fewer people die from depression and anxiety these days because we treat it and recognize it?
You mean when they're
Like fewer
when it
people
wasn't a
fewer
thing in
people
the
are dying from it.
past?
That's crazy. It was a thing in the past. You don't think depression was a thing in the past? You're delusional.
Not as much as it is now.
Yeah, because we diagnose it more.
No, you want to know why?
You're just wrong. Like I know I don't because I know the answer. Like this is the point: is
You
fewer
think you
people
know
are
the
dying of
answer.
mental. I know. So fewer people are dying of mental health than ever before in the world, right? Fewer people are dying of malnutrition. Fewer people are dying of preventable illnesses. We have higher economic growth than most ever we have had, right? We have some of the highest social mobility that we've had. Like, what are you talking about? Like, America's doing better than it has ever done.
Do you smell that?
So
I think I
if
smell some
this
pride.
So if this is the failure of secularism, I'll take the failure of secularism over the absolute dumpster fire that is an ethno state
Okay,
of Christians.
let me explain to you why mental health illness is at a rise. Number one, we've removed God from everything. Number
No
two, we've
correlation. People
listen.
who are
Hold on,
queer
I'm
and
not
raised
done.
in Christian households. I don't care
I'm
for
not
them.
done.
People who are queer and raised in Asian house in not in Asian God. I was reading Indonesian off Wikipedia. People who are queer and raised in Christian households have higher rates of anxiety and depression. So your
Yeah, you want to
religion's
know
talking
why?
about.
You want to know why? Because I wasn't finished, and you don't let me finish. Okay, our nutrition is no longer in our foods. Okay, vitamin and mineral deficiencies are
At an
100%
all-time
attributed
low as well.
100% attributed to anxiety, depression,
Wait, but
schizophrenia,
we are at an all-time low
which
of
is
vitamin
exactly
and mineral deficiencies.
which
We're
is
at an
exact.
all-time low.
No, we are at an all-time high, buddy.
Totally
High.
wrong. Totally wrong. That is just not true. That is just categorically not true. We are at an all-time low historically of vitamin and nutrition deficiencies.
Maybe because of supplementation, but in our foods,
Yeah,
it's
so we
low.
are at an all-time low.
Maybe in our nutrition, it's low. In the foods we're eating every day, it's low. That's why we have to
So we don't
supplement.
have a deficiency.
We do have deficiencies. That's why we
We
have
don't.
so many mental health problems. You,
Okay, but if that was true,
okay,
we would
let's.
find higher rates of deficiency, but we don't.
Maybe I should also explain that I'm a mental health coach, and I know this to be fact because I deal with this
Are
all
you
day
are you
long.
a licensed medical professional?
Not a licensed medical professional, mental health
Then don't
coach.
care.
Okay, it's a
Then I
health
don't care.
coach, and
Uh,
I help people with mental
do
illness
you have any licenses?
restore their life back. I
Do
have
you have any
certifications.
licenses?
I've got certifications, yes.
What
With
certification do you have?
nutrition, I just explained it to you.
Do you know the statistics behind this? Because like you're just lying about it at this point. We are at an all-time low
No, I'm
of
just making stuff up
malnutrition, starvation,
out of
and
thin
mineral
air.
and vitamin deficiencies. That's just not
Literally
true.
making this up out of thin air. Yeah, because I don't totally do this all day long. Right.
Are you suggesting that we have higher rates of mineral and vitamin deficiency than we have in the past?
We have lower rates. We have
Yeah, that's
deficiencies.
what I'm
Yes.
saying. That's what I'm saying. So
We
if
have.
your correlation is right, if what you're saying is, oh well, we have fewer
Hold on.
minerals
Hold
and
on. Hold on.
vitamins,
Stop for a
right?
second.
Well, actually, we have more minerals and vitamins. Yeah, we have lower rates. Thank you.
We have supplementation because our
Right.
foods are deficient, which means we're deficient. Make sense?
No, because when you supplement it, we're not deficient anymore.
Who's supplementing? Do you take supplements?
Not personally, but it's supplemented
Exactly.
into the rest of our
So,
food,
so
right?
therefore you are deficient.
No, but it's not exactly. It's
I
supplemented
guarantee
into
you
our
right
food,
now,
right?
if I wrote a referral to labs to go get some labs on you right now, you'd be deficient in something.
No,
Guaranteed.
I'm not.
Especially vitamin D.
I literally had to get on
Especially
prep like two
vitamin
weeks
D.
ago. No, this isn't true.
Especially vitamin
I literally had to go on prep like 2 weeks ago. I got my blood tested, right? And they
What was
referred
your
they
vitamin D level?
right? I had normal levels of everything except for
No.
like
What
one
was it?
in my muscle
What was your
antibodies.
vitamin D level?
I don't have my blood work in front of me.
Well, then you can't prove it, can you?
I don't have to prove, right, my vitamin levels to you, right? But I can tell you that
You
I'm not
realize
deficient.
low
Normal.
vitamin D is associated with depression, right?
I do, but once again, we don't have more deficiencies than we did in the past, right? And also,
We
this is
do because
delusional. Like,
because
you're just
people
wrong.
are not outside; they're more
Okay, give me a
inside.
source. Give me a source.
They're
Give me a
on
source on this.
TikTok.
Can you give me a single
They're-
source on this?
I can send you something afterwards. Yeah, sure. I can send you a bunch of literature on it. There's tons of studies on this stuff. Just Google it.
Rates of vitamins deficiencies over the past 3 decades. Let's see, in the U.S. Okay.
It's not just the U.S. It's worldwide, man. It's any modern civilization. If you're not spending 2 hours a day outside in direct exposure to your torso, to the sun, you're vitamin deficient. You're vitamin D deficient. Which, oh, by the way, was also the fact that most hospital visits had increased during COVID because vitamin D is a factor in fighting COVID.
Well, once again, I don't disagree that being deficient is a bad thing, but I'm
It's
just
horrible,
disagreeing
man.
that we
It'll
are
kill you.
more deficient than we
It
have
will
been
literally
in the
kill
past.
you if you're deficient.
But once
It will
again,
drive you insane.
like, this is the rate of anemia. I can't show it, but because I have the background on right now. But it's a consistently lowering line.
Anemia is an iron deficiency, though.
I know.
So that's not what we're talking about.
We're talking about deficiencies. Also, anemia can cause mental health problems as well.
Yes,
This is
but
anemia within
more so D3, B complex, especially B1.
Once again, none of these things, right, are okay. Just I guess we're just not going to engage in reality, so we can move on to something where we can engage with reality.
This is more real than anything, dude. This is happening to your generation.
Because in reality,
It didn't happen to my generation when I was a kid. It's happening
you
to yours.
Because you weren't diagnosed with it.
No,
That's why.
no. Because you know why? I was outside all day, climbing trees, trekking through the
Okay,
woods.
I mean, and scurvy existed. in yours. Cool.
Sure.
There
Well,
were, the rates
that.
of scurvy in the past.
I didn't have
the rates
that.
of scurvy within the past 20 years, next to zero. You know the
I've
rates
never-
of scurvy within the previous 50 years, much higher. Like,
Because
of course,
kids are
malnutrition
not,
is an all-time
eating
low.
vitamin C. You know, scurvy is a vitamin C deficiency.
I'm aware. That's my point.
Okay.
Because the rates of scurvy in America are next to none.
So exactly.
So there are very few deficiencies.
No, there are
By
very few
comparison
vitamin
to the
C
past.
deficiencies because everybody likes sweet fruits, but nobody eats salads. Nobody eats green leafy
Okay,
greens.
yeah, I mean,
Nobody goes out to the sun.
Henry, the fact is that America has an all-time low of mineral and vitamin deficiencies.
Regardless,
That's very
America's at the all-time
And you
high
can-
in mental health problems.
Yes,
all-time
exactly. So your
high.
correlation doesn't actually work up. There is a reason for the mental health problems that is separate from the vitamin and mineral deficiencies.
No, it
Because
is
one's
100%.
going up, one's
It's
going down.
100%. Nope.
That's
nope,
not how a
nope,
correlation
that's
works,
not
babe.
accurate. Correlation doesn't. What is it? Correlation doesn't mean causation. Is that?
Yeah, but
is that
there's no
something they teach
correlation
you?
here either. So it doesn't matter what correlation means. There's no correlation.
I don't know what science you're talking about because 90% of some Americans are vitamin D deficient. So look it up.
We have not had an increase in vitamin D deficiency.
Regardless, we have.
What do you mean regardless? Regardless
Okay.
of the truth? Like, okay.
How
Once
do you
again,
get, how do you get
Just
vitamin D?
get me, okay, I'm just gonna, I'll call this.
How do you get vitamin D? I just
What, you
explained
eat it.
No, you don't.
You do eat vitamin D.
You
You have to go in the
can-
sunlight to process it.
No, you don't. You obtain
Okay,
vitamin
how
D.
do they add vitamin D to milk then?
Yeah, but it doesn't actually go into the blood. You realize that?
Yeah,
It's
so
fortified.
yeah,
It's
I know.
synthetic. Your
That's
body
why
doesn't use it. It poops it out. Doesn't do
so
anything
you
for
need
you.
to go in the sun to process it.
No, you need to go in the sun to absorb vitamin D through your skin.
No, that's not how that works.
That is how that works. Look it up. You realize your skin is the largest organ in your body, right?
Oh, I didn't. Oh, that's so funny. No, okay, so what happens?
Look it up.
Before I
Look it
look it
up.
up,
No, no, no. Before you look
one
it up.
second. I'll look it up. Calm down, Henry.
Okay.
I'll look it
Okay.
up.
Let's
But before it
explain
does,
to
I
me
just
how
wanted to
vitamin
say, like,
D gets absorbed
stop
into the
speaking.
body.
Like, come on, man.
Go ahead.
Like, just first of all, like, no. You ingest vitamin D, right? And then in order for your body to process it and make it into functional vitamin D to be used, it you process it through your skin or around your skin, right? It's needed. You need the sunlight to process it. That's true,
No,
but
no.
it doesn't come in through the sunlight.
It actually
That's
comes in
stupid.
through the sun's rays to your skin, and it gets processed in the liver.
So you need sunlight to process it.
Liver.
So you need the sunlight to process it,
No, you need
like I
sunlight
said.
to get vitamin D. You can't get it from your food. You understand that? It's only absorbed through the sun, 2 hours a day. Direct exposure of your torso, which nobody's doing. Everybody's inside on TikTok debating about
So
religion.
what is inside? Why do we drink vitamin D in milk?
I don't know, because it's not doing anything for you.
So if I didn't drink any vitamin D or ingest any vitamin D, but I went out in the sun, would I have vitamin D?
You would have higher levels of vitamin D up every time. So every 2 hours, 25,000 IUs in direct sunlight of vitamin D. Yes.
So if I did not ingest any vitamin D,
You would be 100% not deficient if you spent 2 hours a day in the sunlight, depending on where you live, too. Because where you live also affects the angle of the sun, and it's all time of day as well. There's some scientific method behind it. Yeah, the vitamin D that's in your milk, it's synthetic. You're not absorbing it. Your body can't process it. It's actually D2.
yeah, but it's processed into D3.
No, it's never converted into anything because your body doesn't know what D2 is. It's synthetic. It's man-made. It gets swallowed and thrown out.
Yeah, vitamin D is also found in oily fish, red meat, liver, egg yolks, fortified foods.
And you
So
know
when
how
you
much
eat
of that
them,
you have to eat in order to get it absorbed. Who's eating fish every day? Are you eating fish every day?
I mean, I
Like
eat egg
large
yolks every
amounts.
day.
Okay, well then you may be getting some from your egg yolks, maybe some, but not 25,000 IU's worth. Guarantee you
Once
that.
again, like this whole context is
You're
within the
still going to be
context of
deficient.
mental illness.
You're still going to be
This whole
deficient. Is
context
my
is within
point.
the whole context is within the context of mental illness, right?
Yes.
And the thing is vitamin D deficiencies look like this over the past 30 years. And mental illness looks like this.
Where are you getting that from? Where do you see that?
That's what the data show. I mean, that is
What
just
data from
what's
where?
clear, right? But I mean, the CDC, I've looked at a graph before from the CDC. I can pull it up. I can't quite find it right
Yeah,
now.
that because that's not
Um,
accurate at all. I can tell you that for a fact.
you're claiming that vitamin D deficiencies are at an all-time high.
They are, especially in
According to
America.
whom? According to whom?
The CDC, believe it or not. Ugh.
This is why I'm just saying we're on a factual point. The past 100 years. U.S.
And I believe the
I want
NIH also has made that statement as well.
I mean, I should for anemia. It doesn't. Anemia, vulnerable anemia in women. Vitamin A deficiency. Nighttime blindness. Night blindness. Zinc deficiency. Hidden hunger index. Prevention. Vitamin A supplementation. Iodization. Let's look at vitamin A because that's what our world data has. Vitamin A deficiency. Oh, no data. Okay, interesting. That's over the past. See the fact sheets. Databases and tools. My evidence for nutrition action. Why is there very little data on this?
A simple Google search will pull up a bunch of articles on it, honestly. I don't know what you're looking.
That's what I'm looking for. I looked
Yeah.
up rates of vitamin deficiency over the past 100 years, US data.
Maybe there wasn't a test to go that far back. But if you look at more recent tests,
Oh, vitamin D and health. Wait. Vitamin D and health from diet. Summary recommendation research. Oh, that's from the. Let's see. That's from the NHS. I'll keep that for a second.
yeah, there's tons of studies on it.
There's
My
none
point
that look over the history.
Okay, but
This
my
is the
point
thing.
is,
It's like I looked at the CDC. The CDC doesn't have data supporting what you're suggesting.
well,
Right? They just
supporting
say
what you're suggesting.
they concur that 92% of the U.S. population has vitamin deficiencies. That's true.
Yes,
But what
that's
they
it.
don't concur is that it's higher.
Regardless, it's still 92%, is it not?
But you're arguing that it's higher.
No.
That's-
You're arguing
that
that
is incredibly important to your argument.
No, that was your
Right?
argument,
If it's
sir.
not higher, wait, no, but in order for this to be relevant, there must be higher rates of vitamin deficiency.
Why?
Because if there is the same rate of vitamin deficiency and there's higher mental health, then the rate of vitamin deficiency does not have to do with mental health in this context.
See if they have data for 10 years back. You don't have to go that far.
Okay.
This is recent. This is like 15 years. Recent phenomenon. You don't have to go 100 years.
Let's see. So this goes from 2015 to 2005 to 2016. Evan's current finding. I mean, I don't know why I'm doing your research for you.
Well, you're not. I mean, you're doing it for yourself because I already know. I already read all that. Like, I know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
Well, you're wrong too. So you're misinformed, clearly, about a lot of things.
I mean, just give me a source later. I mean,
Yeah, that's
like
fine.
there's nothing.
My point in bringing that up in the first place was just the fact that many of your mental health issues are not just nutritional, but they can also be spiritual. Okay. Like literally, if you read the Bible, if you have context into what Scripture talks about, there's a lot of psychology in there. Okay, and it literally gives you the blueprint.
Just engage in psychology. It doesn't have to be spiritual, babe.
Psychology is literally.
Just go to therapy.
Most of your psychology comes from the Bible, is what I'm trying to tell you.
No, it doesn't.
Most of the
That's not true.
knowledge, yes, it is. It's
No.
It may not have been directly torn out, but it's literally was in Scripture prior to the findings in science.
Yeah, but that shit was also in other scriptures prior.
No, it was not.
Like, okay, give me something that wasn't in a prior scripture.
What do you mean prior Scripture?
Give me something that is like psychologically beneficial in the Bible that wasn't in a prior scripture.
Prayer.
Prayer was in a prior scripture, like Hindus pray.
Was it prior or post?
Yes, Hinduism is well prior to Christianity. The
Are you
Vedas predate the Christian Gospels by hundreds of years.
Are you sure?
Yes,
How do you know that?
in that it's true. I mean, the languages that the Vedas
Just trust me,
written
bro.
in are much older, right? The tradition of Hinduism dates back much higher. Like literally all archaeological evidence supports this. basically like not a single historian in their right mind can like disagree with this. Like
Are you a
it's just an
historian?
accepted historical fact.
Are you a historian?
Do you have any clue what you're talking about? Like literally everyone agrees with this. This is like very low level basic world history.
Are you a historian?
Not by trade, no.
Okay.
In a sense, I mean, I go back and research legal history, but also no, like, yeah, no.
So
Hinduism is older than Christianity.
okay, but prayer specifically
Prayer
to
is in
God,
Hinduism.
to one God, not the totem pole or whatever it is that they pray to. Yeah,
This is where we edge on like offensive.
not offensive. It's truth.
The totem pole.
Well, that's probably what Indians, right? Not those kinds of Indians, the other Indians.
Yeah, no, I mean, no.
Yeah,
Also, no.
you're talking about
That's
Hinduism, right?
demeaning. That's demeaning to both religions.
Well,
Also, Hinduism
regardless.
exists outside of India.
Okay, well, regardless, prayer inside of the Bible is now
But
scientifically founded to
prayer
be
is
to be
not
truth.
only prayer is not
Okay,
only beneficial to monotheistic gods. That's not true. Where we see the
regardless.
same benefits when the people are polytheistic. So that practice is not that practice, the psychological practice of self-talk, right, exists within the Vedas as well. So
No,
name one that doesn't.
self-talk, exactly what I'm saying. So
So
you've
name
used the
one
correct term.
that self-talk exists within the Vedas. Does that mean that psychology got it from Hinduism? No. Does that mean that they should read the Vedas to get that in like view?
Oh,
No,
so
right?
exactly. So you're proving my point. My point is that we don't need a book to tell us this. Okay, we are wired
How is that your
naturally
point?
to
Your
do
whole point was
this.
that they should pick up the Bible and use it.
I'm telling you to, because I don't know where you're getting your
No,
knowledge from. Clearly,
your whole point was, well, it's a spiritual lacking, so they should read the Bible because it has a lot of good psychological advice.
yeah, sure.
And
Why
now
not?
you're saying my whole point is that we don't need a book to tell us it.
No, you do.
You're just a
You
liar,
do.
Henry. You're
You do.
literally just a liar.
You do need a book.
I have
You
such
need
low
you
respect for
need
you right now.
you need
You are
the
just a straight
only
up liar. Why are
you
like
only you
lying is a
need
sin?
one
Why are you
book.
doing it?
You need one book, okay? Which is the Holy
I
Bible,
said
which
you
is
don't. The argument is you don't need a book to do it. That's what you just
well,
said,
you don't.
right? And then about
You
5 minutes ago,
You're absolutely right. You don't need a book to know that you should pray. People do it without even having any religious background. They do it every day. It's called self-talk. It's prayer, meditation. You do it internally, naturally. It comes natural. It's given to you by your creator. You understand that? You don't need somebody to tell you to do this. It is in scripture, but innately it's inside of you.
Henry, are you aware that you're lying? Or are
I'm
you
not.
doing it recklessly?
I'm not.
Okay, so explain to me how your whole point can be that
You're
everyone
thinking
should
we're
go.
debating here. We're not debating. We're just talking. Okay.
Well, but
So
you said you're proving my whole point. So it seems that you give up on making an argument every time that you lose an argument.
again, you're debating. I'm not. I'm talking to
But
you. We're
you're
having a
making an
conversation.
argument, so I'm just critiquing your argument. I don't care what you call it. You said you're proving my whole argument.
You've proven my point.
My whole point. Whatever. Point
Yeah,
is to an argument.
sure. Whatever.
Cool. So I'm just asking you, well, that can't be your whole point when actually your whole point was something different.
I
So I
think
don't care
you're
if you're debating or discussing, you're just a liar.
okay. No, I think you're taking my words literally, and I think that's where the
Yeah,
miscommunication is
how
happening.
dare I take what you're saying to be true?
No, not truth. Literal. I can't use
Literally true.
I can't use any kind of analogies with you clearly because it throws you.
Analogies are literal.
No, they're not.
They are.
No, they're made to help someone grasp the concept.
They
They're
are
not
also
really.
literal. They are.
They could be, but not usually. No.
By and large, they are.
Okay. So you're just going to be right all the time. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, I am right all the time.
I can see that.
By comparison to someone that thinks Oxford's in the U.S., yes, I am right all the time.
I never said it was. I just asked you if it was.
You never asked me if I was.
I asked you if you were in the U.S. and is Oxford in the U.S. and you said
You
no.
never asked me if Oxford is in the U.S.
Okay, well, I guess you didn't hear me ask what I asked.
No, I didn't. No, you didn't say it. That's why I didn't hear it.
Well, whatever. Regardless, I think you should probably maybe do some more research. Maybe open up
I've done plenty
scripture.
of research. That's why I know anything, and you know nothing in
Clearly,
relation to this. You didn't know that Hinduism was older.
clearly
Then you questioned the
you
very
didn't
basic fact
know.
that Hinduism was older. You didn't know what the Nicene Creed is, which is incredible for a Christian when it's a foundational part of your belief system. Arguably, it's all you believe necessarily as a Christian, right? You didn't believe that the Secretary of Education was a Christian when he literally is. You didn't agree that most people within the federal government are Christian, even though they literally are, right? There's basically no point of knowledge, right, that you have had on me. And
Okay.
so the
And
incredible amount of hubris
I'm just sharing with you,
to
man. I'm
suggest
just
that
sharing
the
you.
incredible amount of hubris to turn around and suggest that I'm the one that needs to do research, right,
I'm
would
just
only be
sharing
shown
with
by
you
someone
what
as
I.
delusional
Okay.
to believe that it is worth it to come up here and debate your religion when you know basically nothing about even your own religion, much less other people's.
I've shared a fraction of what I believe with you because you've been debating the
Believe.
entire time.
And you've shared all you know, babe.
No, not at
But
all.
anyway, if that's the end, if you're gonna end up, I don't know, demeaning my intelligence,
No,
I'll move on to someone else. I don't need to do more research.
I'm gonna say thank
You
you,
need to
thank you,
do any research. I'll
thank you
let
for
you
your
have a final point.
knowledge.
You can move on to someone else.
Thank you for your knowledge, and it was great talking to you. Have a great day.
Great.
This is actually my first live. I don't even know how to bounce out of here. How do you do this?
I got you.
Thanks.
Love you all. Okay. Ooh, we're doing well, everyone. Okay. We're doing well on viewership. We're doing well on everything. I will probably go to sleep relatively soon. But my loves, or do I make a pizza? What do I do? Then I would need to figure out how to do the oven because I just moved in somewhere new. But anyway, oh, but I'm not that hungry. Anyway, what I will say is there are 750 of you. And if we could get 750 subscribers on my YouTube, I would be eternally grateful. So if you're being a cool guy, I love you so much. Follow my YouTube. My link is in my bio. Please do it. It would be great because I will be going live on YouTube. And there is a really high chance that this account gets limited. This account gets nixed. This account gets attacked. So if you could help protect me from that by diversifying, that would be absolutely great. But yeah, so thank you so much for everyone following. I really appreciate it and love it. And what I will say is drop out of the guest requests if you agree with me. Don't spam if you're in my chat. The YouTube link isn't working. Go to wills.talks on YouTube. But do you have tickets too? What do you mean tickets? It's no good. Ooh, okay. I will try and fix that now, actually, because I would like to. Okay. Yeah, wonderful. I can't find his channel by searching. Yeah, I will fix that. But let's see what else I can do. Shoot, that's no fun. Hello. Hello. You still there?
Hello?
Hi, what's up?
This is my first live, and I have a cold, so I hope you can hear me okay.
Yeah, I can.
All right. So, when we're talking of things of faith, um, we speak more of belief and not exactly facts. Kind of like if you put your faith in a chair to hold you up, you can examine it, you can test it, and then when you put your faith in the chair, you sit on it. So a lot
But
of
that's
what,
based on facts, and I wouldn't do it if I didn't have facts.
right.
It's a conclusion from facts, isn't it?
I'm
I
sorry.
examine this chair and I conclude that it's safe.
Well, surely we don't do that every time we sit down, but so anyway, so tell me where I'm wrong. As I've studied the scripture, God reveals himself to whomever he wishes. And he doesn't reveal himself to everybody. I mean, he in a general way does, according to Romans 1, but on a personal basis, he reveals himself to certain people that he chooses, and he chooses not to reveal himself to others. And that may seem
Great, so if he
unfair.
doesn't reveal himself to me, then I have no good reason to believe in him, and you would agree with me.
That's the way it works. In
Great,
my
yeah, then I have no good reason to believe in your God.
Well, one day he may reveal himself to you.
And when he does, I will believe him. Also, guys, I just did fix my YouTube link. It is now working. It was not working because I changed my username. So now if you can go do my YouTube, that would be great. Shout out to y'all.
Congratulations.
So thank you. Thank you so much. It is now working. But so yeah, if he reveals himself to me, I'll believe in him, and until then, I have no good reason to.
I can agree with that. It sounds right.
Slay.
Slay.
Well, I appreciate you coming up then. I'll move on to someone else.
All right.
Keep on sending likes, everyone. Thank you so much. Keep viewership moving. Hello, Emmeline.
Hello, brother. How are you? I am from Ireland.
Oh, wonderful.
Hi, good to speak to you. Where are you from America?
Sorry?
Where are you from America?
Yeah. What'd you send a guest request to disagree on?
Well, I don't know. Like, I just came on here to tell you, right, that I am the chosen one of Planet Earth, man. I am battling with the devil at the moment.
Hi there, I'm Jean Carlos.
Hi.
Hey, I'm a little bit different. I'm gay. I'm married. I'm Christian. I'm a progressive Christian. And I guess my thesis is that the world is better if we have healthy spirituality, not if we have no spirituality.
What do you mean by spirituality?
I think, to be clear, I think the Western world divides up frames of thought in weird ways. Like there's religion and philosophy and spirituality, but I think that kind of sense of connected to something bigger than yourself. It could be theistic. It could be more than that. But I guess I hear you kind of arguing against theism, against spirituality. Like there's no good reason to believe in that. But I feel like the world is better when we have a healthy form of spirituality, not like 100% atheist or 100% Christian.
Well, I certainly don't think Christian is the right way to go. But I am interested in how you could define it as not atheistic, right? If you're arguing the helpful delusion argument, I haven't really found that to be true. I don't think a helpful delusion has been helpful historically. I think typically search for truth and meaning accurately and in earnest, rather than accepting less than the truth or less than the reality, has actually been productive to humankind.
Yeah, to be clear, I think that truth is important, but I think that, especially in other cultures, truth isn't just an intellectual pursuit. It's something that can be embodied. It's something that can be felt. I don't think that even if we have more technology and more time, we'll have a culture without spirituality or religion. I think that spirituality is kind of like music or sex or food or arts. Like it's this fundamental part of what it means to be a human. And so I think we should argue for healthy spiritualities for those that want to participate in that versus no spirituality.
Why?
I mean, I think a society that demands no spirituality would ultimately be kind of oppressive. Even if we
I'm not demanding. So I'm not suggesting oppression. I'm not demanding anything, right? I'm just I don't think everyone should do what is best or should be forced to do what is best. I just think this is what is best. So I'd love to know why it is best to do this thing rather than this other thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm also making a collective argument about a society where we have healthy forms of spirituality. It's like, for me, I go to a church led by queer people of color. The questions we're asking are not about
led by queer people of color.
What was that?
As well. I'm a Unitarian Universalist, so yeah, as did I. It just didn't need to be spiritual.
Do you still go to? I mean, I'm sorry. Do you still go to that community?
When I'm in town, yeah.
Oh well, hey, I mean, like then I have high respect, of course, even if you're an atheist. I think spirituality, that sense of like, why are we here? What are we connected to? Why does like treating each other well matter? Like those questions are really important. And I think we should have spaces to ask those questions. And for me, God motivates me to do that. I think that having a healthy form of spirituality where you love yourself, where you love others, where you love God, it's like, it's part of what makes humanity awesome. If it's done right.
So I think feeling like you're part of something that is bigger than yourself is good. I agree. I don't agree that you must delude yourself to do so. Like that's my difficulty. What do you mean by spirituality other than things untethered from reality?
Well, to be clear, I mean, I think spirituality, in the most basic sense, is a connection to something bigger than yourself. But like, I do think that part of that
I wouldn't say that like me thinking I'm a part of my family is spiritual. Like, I think it could be spiritual, but I would need to describe what I mean by that beyond, like, it inherently is not spiritual, right? Me being a member of my college is not spiritual, right? I think there's something bigger there.
Yeah. I think there's something. Yeah, I mean, it's hard because, like the word spiritual, right? Like the idea of spirit or pneuma or like air or like wind. It's kind of it's a weird concept, but I think that like the fact that you are connected to your family, the fact that you're connected to humanity, that level of connection, I don't think it's intellectual. I think it's like deep and energetic. Like, and so a world where we only do things that are verifiable, a world where we only do things where there's just facts. I mean, I'm pro facts, I'm pro science, but I just feel like we should have a space for spirituality, just like we have space for music and arts. Like it should be a part of being human. And you don't have to come to the same conclusions. You don't have to follow Jesus like I'm trying to, but like we should like treat that as good and not as bad.
I don't think experiencing emotion and engaging in the complex or nuanced is bad. Let's say it that way, or the emotional or deep lived human experience, or the mystery of lived human experiences. What the difficulty with spirituality with me is it's settling on ignorance rather than searching for truth. I don't think accepting spirituality into my worldview is acceptable. I think a consistent and persistent search for truth and meaning in that emotional and nuanced space is always going to be more productive. Not a limitation to those things which I already know, right? But an active motivation to include more things in that which I already know. So only living in that which I don't know, so as to make it known. But to me, spirituality in this description is a ceasefire. It's a renunciation of that goal, and I think the goal is to find truth, not to accept the lack thereof.
Well, I mean, I think spirituality, when done right, if you look at it historically, has been this place for mystery. and for awe and for like curiosity. And so I guess the thing is like I don't think all of life is just hypothesis, experiment, scientific conclusion. I think some of life is what I call axioms, are just like things that are true because they're true because they're true. And honestly, they are faith. Like one of the things I think is true is that people are made in the image of God. That's my language, right? And that they're inherently valuable and worthy of like respect and rights. And that motivates me to care about justice. That motivates me to care about immigrants. That motivates me to like not be okay with people being treated like shit. It motivates me to not be okay with gay people and trans people being treated like they're less than human. Now, that's what motivates me. I also acknowledge that other people have really toxic spiritualities, which motivate them to do the very opposite of what I just listed there. But like, there is a healthy form of spirituality that humans can live into that could be as good as music and art, you know?
But once again, isn't it more interesting to ask why they're valuable than to accept that they are? Like, that's where I'm at, is, yes, this seems to be true, right? And whatever led me to believe it to be true, right, which seems to be some innate view, it's always much more interesting to ask why than to accept. And once again, falling on spirituality to describe it seems to be a failure or an admission of disinterest in further analysis on it. And then when questions on it come up, right, well, how do we treat people? How do we describe this? It lacks explanatory value, right? It lacks, oh, well, just this axiom. You can't add further nuance because you can't describe the foundation.
I mean, I think there are a lot of spiritual communities where asking questions is at the very center. Like in Judaism, like this idea of like the text is just the beginning. Let's ask a question and then another question on top of the question. And like questions have been a key place for spiritual communities. And so has like continuing to expand and add more information. I think we've just seen a lot of fundamentalism try to answer all the questions and then get mad when it can't answer the questions correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, the difficulty is what are they asking questions about if the fundamentals are axioms? But yeah, I don't think a whole lot of harm is being done in what you're saying. I just kind of disagree on like the necessity of spirituality. I think there's a lot, like mysticism has its place, right? But I think mysticism has its place to be answered, right? It doesn't have its place to stay. And maybe it will never be answered. Maybe the whole thing is asking questions and finding answers or finding things that are interesting to us.
Yeah, but like, you know, I mean, I think of what you're doing here. I know this is going to be my language, not yours. I think of what you're doing here as a ministry. You're helping people disconnect from really unhelpful, false ideas. So good on you. Like, keep doing that. But the thing is that like one day you and people who believe like you guys maybe have power, right? Like you might be at the top of society and you might say, actually, religion and spirituality is just inherently bad. Let's get rid of it. And I think instead, from the very beginning, we should have this idea of like, no, I'm against false ideas. I'm against unhelpful or toxic theologies. I'm against bad spirituality. But to be against spirituality is like, again, being against all music or all sex. Like, there's a way to do it well.
I think you hit it at unnecessary. Like, I find very little necessity in spirituality. Necessity and admission of ignorance or complacency within ignorance.
But this word ignorance, like we've both agreed, for example, that Buddhism is spirituality, right? There is no God to prove. It's just a practice for what it means to be connected. And for sure, there are some beliefs, for sure, but like, why does spirituality and ignorance have to be connected?
They're necessarily connected. They're outside of explanatory reality. They're ignorance on what our explanatory reality explains.
To be clear, like to be alive is to be ignorant of a lot of, I mean, science is ignorant of a lot of things, and it can continue to search for those answers. But there's even some questions that science admits that it can't answer because they're philosophical in nature. They have nothing to do with facts. They have something to do with value and significance and purpose that science isn't even equipped to answer. So why must we connect spirituality with ignorance when ignorance is something that plagues us all?
I agree. I have no issue with ignorance, right? I actually revel in ignorance. The difficulty is in complacency within that ignorance.
So if
And
you're
I'm
advocating,
anti-certainty. Like I come from a background where the Bible has the answer to everything, and of course it doesn't. And of course, like you get into very weird spaces when it does. But there are lots of spiritual communities around the world that don't feel like they have the answer to every scientific and historical question.
no, I'm aware, and I'm that's better than certainty. I agree. It's better than complacency with uncertainty because that's delusion. Um, Complacency with ignorance, I would just say, is lazy, and counterproductive. So
Can
I
we
agree.
though?
I'm anti-certainty as well, in that it's dangerous and delusional. Whereas complacency within ignorance, right, is certainly better. But I would still say it's not the answer. It's not the best. The best we can do is non-complacency with ignorance, active, consistent truth and
I, gue-
goals and
I
work.
guess what I struggle with though is that like in the previous statement you talked about like it being bad that Christianity tries to have answers and not questions, but now it feels like the point is that like Christianity doesn't have necessarily the answers. And I just think that both if you're an atheist, a Buddhist, a Christian, you have a bunch of unanswered questions. You can call that ignorance. And we all are trying to know more. I mean, not everyone, but I'm trying to know more. And I have spirituality, but I do so from a different place. And it helps me do that from a different place.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe we just have. I don't know. It would be hard to delineate a scientific and a spiritual question from your understanding of spirituality. Like I just don't know what that really means then.
Well,
Uh,
science can answer the question of like, what is human DNA? But philosophy, spirituality, religion will ask the question, when do humans have value? And how should we treat humans? Science
yeah,
will
but like a
never.
philosophic, but like what distinguishes a philosophic question from a spiritual question?
Truthfully, I will be honest, there isn't. And part of that is because in Western world we've created all these different words for the same ideas. Like what are the frameworks that we live under? How do we make meaning? But meaning making is really, really important. And to claim that the only meaning making we can do has to be factually verified is I think limited. Because there is meaning making
But what
that
else
no
would
amount of
verify
facts.
it? What's the counter?
Say that again?
What else would verify it? Like what's the counter view?
So well, to be honest with you, it's us wrestling and arguing it. Like I like there is like we as humans have to ask ourselves, how will we treat the immigrant? There is no science that's going to give you the answer to how we treat the immigrant. How do we treat queer people? How do we treat trans? What is right? What is wrong? What is justice? All of those questions are so important, but they're not factually verified. And again, it's not that science is failing. It's just that fundamentally science isn't trying to answer those
Yeah,
questions.
I agree. I think there's room for philosophy and rationality, but I don't think it reaches the realm of the spiritual. I just think it
Well,
reaches the realm of the intuitive. Um,
but isn't the
and
intuitive spiritual and isn't asking a question of why human has value ultimately, I mean, not that it's opinion based, I'm sure it is, but like we're asking big questions that aren't going to be verified. They're just like what will lead to the best outcome? They're what do we like more?
well, there are ways to engage with this that are different than spirituality. I would say spirituality is calling on something external or super of human, right? And I don't think that's what we're doing. I think we're
But isn't the
engaging with
value
something.
of human super than the verifiable facts that we have?
But it's not super of human, right? It's just constituent of human. In reality, I'd say in reality we are like some people argue philosophy is a science, right? I kind of disagree with them.
But like
But
there's no like if I come to you and I say I believe a human has value, there isn't a verify there is an experiment we can do. But that question is still
but that's a very limited understanding of science, isn't it? Like it's not just running things through test tubes and stuff, right? Like it's a method of deriving truth.
And
But
whoa, then we just go into what do we mean by value, right? And I mean, there are good arguments for valuing things or like giving value. And you could just say, well, I value it. I'm willing to exchange this for that. Therefore, it gives it value. And the fact that someone is willing to do that means that it's value. Or the fact that a lived experience values it themselves, value themselves means that it has value. Those would all be scientific ways to approach the question.
I
In
would
that
say that
sense.
most scientists would argue that it's just not a science question because there is no way to falsify that a human has value. And science requires that things be falsifiable. And so
Well,
like it's
science doesn't require anything. Not really,
I
but
mean
it
I
depends
think
how you
modern
define it.
like there's a reason why some things like Myers-Briggs are not scientific, they're just kind of cute assessments. And then there are some tests that are scientific because you can falsify them. There are forms of things that you might call science that a scientist might say, nope, that's cute, but it's not science.
Yeah, because it didn't go through any scientific process to derive it. But you can engage in the scientific process on basically any issue. But yeah, I guess we just come down what do we mean by spiritual? If we just mean things outside of the factual, I disagree. I think you can engage with everything in the factual. I just think factual things can be amorphous, right? My
Yeah.
intuitions, my feelings, my our discussions, those are factual. But they're just amorphous. They're meta, they're large, but they're not outside of themselves.
But I
They're
don't think
really
they're factual. We can, like let's say if you're asking a question like how should we treat the immigrant, right? Should we treat them well, like they're humans? Should we treat them less than? Should they be a second class citizen? When we're having arguments about justice, they're kind of based on axiomatic truths about humans having value. And those are good conversations, but there's nothing about how we treat the immigrant that is like based on a science. And scientists would say, oh, great, well,
But it's
that's why
still
we have
factual. No, I agree. You're arguing not outside of science. We're saying it's outside of fact, and I'm saying that's still a factual thing.
uh, how we treat how we how we treat the immigrant is a factual question.
Yeah, it's
I,
related
I,
to facts. That's all we can talk about is facts, right? Like that's
I,
all we
the,
talk about. Even within a philosophic discussion, that's all we talk about is facts.
I don't know. I mean, I remember going to science classes and philosophy classes in college, and one of those key distinctions was this idea that again, I don't want to, please, let's not debate abortion, but like a science can tell you something about, a fetus, right? But like the value or lack thereof is a philosophical endeavor. And the value of how we treat the
Yeah,
immigrant,
but
it's,
philosophy deals in facts. Like this isn't a distinction.
to be
Philosophy deals
clear,
in facts.
we can deal with facts, but I think the discussion was whether like we can deal only with facts. And I'm saying, no, there
But I
are
don't know what
value
else outside of
questions.
facts you deal with.
Value,
Like I don't know what else you
value
deal with.
conversations,
What? But
value.
value conversations are factual. In fact, I value this thing. In fact, I find it reasonable to value this thing,
Well, to be clear,
right?
the fact
Like,
that I value the immigrant and someone else doesn't value the immigrant doesn't help us answer whether we should value the immigrants.
but it does though, because then we ask, well, do you value this thing? Do you value this thing? Do you value this thing? Right? And then we compare, like how you engage, right, in Socratic philosophic discussions is by comparing patterns in people's valuative preferences and articulating the distinctions. Right. So when you have a novel case, you compare it to the preemptive cases. That's a really common pattern of discussion, and that's comparing facts in a very systematic way. I don't think that is engaging in a spiritual thing. You could argue it is, right? But I don't really think it is. I think a
Yeah,
lot of the things that we can discover about the truth is through very systemic comparisons of intuitions.
yeah, but that intuition, what makes it right and wrong is not facts. Like we're making statements about value, and I actually don't feel like I'm claiming much. I'm saying science can do really good with facts and experiments and things that are falsifiable. Philosophy, spirituality, religion tries to answer questions that it does not have the evidence to answer, and yet it does so. It tries to say, therefore, because we're made in God's image, we should do this. And in some ways, is it a shortcut? I don't want a shortcut. I want us to actually value human life. But I think value conversations are different and they're worthwhile. And that's why we should have healthy spirituality versus zero spirituality.
Perhaps. It depends how you define spirituality once again. I think we do a lot better, right, engaging in just good faith, non-dogmatic
But
discussions. But
can
yeah, if
you?
it's just if you it's just this is just about classification. If you're classifying intuitions as spiritual, then I agree. Should we have good intuitions? Yeah. Is it better off if we accept intuitions as true? Yeah, but that's already in my worldview. I just don't class it as spiritual.
So
Which is
how do
fair
you?
enough.
If you have one person that has the intuition that the immigrant doesn't matter at all, and another person has the intuition that the immigrant is a human being and should be treated well, and we should have policies to treat them well, how does those two intuitions fight it out? Who wins?
Yeah, because you intuitions don't stand alone, right? How you do it is by compare. So you compare the novel case, right, to preemptive cases. So okay, let's talk about this as a person as a human. If you don't know anything about the human, what do you give them? What's your intuition towards how you treat this human? Is it a good thing to, what if this is a child, right? And then we just go through a huge amount of other cases and then compare our intuitions about those, right? And by and large, what they're going to find is that we tend to intuitively value humans as a kind. We tend to intuitively value our nation, right? But only in relation to being threatened, not in it's a complicated discussion, right? Why we maybe end up with this intuition, and then you can even split it more down. Well, what if this you know, what if this immigrant came because they were being driven out of their nation? What if they came because they were a domestic abuse survivor? What if they came because they want to attack America? Like, you know, you can go down a huge amount of things, and it go deeper and deeper into the intuitions, both comparing novel cases and comparing old cases, and that's how you go through the discussion.
So, based on my definition of spirituality, do you agree with the statement that the world is better with healthy spirituality over no spirituality? Or would you still claim that the world would be better if we just woke up and everyone was an atheist and kind of thought that supernatural or non-factually verifiable claims, thought those weren't, those were silly?
Well, but by your definitions, atheists also have spirituality, which is like great,
Atheists can
cool.
have spirituality, right?
Yeah,
And
like by your
anyone,
definition, I have
but
spirituality,
people can
right?
opt
By your
out though,
definition,
right?
but that's the whole thing. Is like by your definition, I have spirituality in that I recognize the value of intuitions. It's just a categorical. It's just a categorical question.
Well, true, but I believe that people can. I believe there are some people that want to live a world where it's only facts, as if being a human being. Well, again, facts are so important, but I think that being a human being is more than just facts. It's like loving your child and loving your neighbor and like feeling good about the community you live in and like things that are kind of like woo woo, you know? And I so I guess my thing for you is like I would love for you to go against false and dumb and unhelpful and toxic ideas, but like I wish more like agnostic and atheist debaters on TikTok would like be okay with a world where people just had healthier spirituality over like everyone becoming an atheist.
But atheists still have spirituality, by your understanding. I want to make that clear. Like by your
To be
definition,
clear,
I also
I
find
think you can have
spirituality.
spirituality. Anyone, everywhere, a Buddhist is an atheist. Am I wrong? Like they have spirituality.
Some are,
You're
depends.
right, right. Some are, some aren't.
But
But like to be clear,
yeah, but
spirituality, I
importantly
think.
though, like I don't. Here's the thing: is like I think the question then is it possible to not have spirituality in what you're saying?
I
And
think
from
so.
my
I think
view,
there are. I think so. I
I
think
don't
there are
think there.
people.
I think there are people that think that it's possible, but they're wrong. That's my point. Is I think
Well, I like that. I'm glad that we both agree that everything and everyone is spiritual. But well, I mean, I'm just kidding about that. But like, I think everyone does have spirituality, just like they have sexuality or orientation. But like,
yeah, by that definition, I agree. But the thing is in no world am I going to be able to squash that because it's a natural human tendency. It's going to happen anyway.
well,
It's
isn't that
it's how we
beautiful?
address these questions.
But isn't that beautiful? Like, even if secularism goes from 20% of the population to 80%, there will always be a part of the population that's like, because the Bible says so, I'm going to X or Y. And we can call that silly, but like tradition and patterns and like, some of that can be beautiful if done well. It's not all trash, even though some of it is trash.
Yes, but once again, even if we are all atheists, even if we're all secularists, we still have spirituality. So it's kind of like two different conversations, isn't it?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Is like even if we all do become secularists, like we still have spirituality. It's just kind of what that looks like, and it could look very horrid or good. Like intuitions of atheists can still be horrendous. So it's But anyway.
Yeah. But yeah. Well, hey, thanks for the conversation. I really appreciate it. Thanks for what you do, and I hope that people will believe less false and toxic things.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you coming up.
Take care.
You too. Should I go to bed or should I keep on debating? Is Q-Top on? Q-Top doesn't like me. Anyway, okay. I'm gonna go to bed, everyone. I'll be up later, maybe. I don't know. Love you all. Okay, so I'll give you all a second. Follow my YouTube. My link is in my bio. Please do. Please do. I really, really appreciate it, actually. Mainly because TikTok is coming after this account, so you might not have an opportunity to watch me on this account. But if I have YouTube, it's a little safer. It's a little more, slay. The link is in my bio directly. Thank you so much for subscribing to my YouTube. I really do appreciate it. I haven't been on long. Yeah, well, no, I'm going to be on long. Okay, so I love you all. Thank you so much. Thank you to the people that sent gifts. Thank you to people that followed me up here as well. I do appreciate that. And if you follow my backup on TikTok, that would be great as well. Can you add me on LinkedIn? Please don't add me on LinkedIn. Unless you're, like, really cool, If you want to follow my link, no, don't. I'll probably deny all of you. I love you so much, but I'll probably deny all of you. Peace out.